I'm just going to pull our pictures in. And then I think we should be okay. I'll ask the audience to, one thing is, like, I'm totally happy if people want to ask tough questions, but once in a while, both sides actually get a little bit aggressive.
Fired up.
So I'll ask the audience, because I appreciate you guys coming on here. I feel like I owe you for coming on here. So I will ask the audience to be as polite, or at least just minimally respectful, not name calling and all that stuff. So
works for me. Just so you know, we are live right now. Just started it, so no one be oh no, don't say anything you wouldn't say out loud anyway.
You got it.
That's a good general rule, I think.
Yeah. Didn't want to accidentally hot mic anybody. So I'll mute myself for just a second, and then let me know. I can hear you fine. So.
You bet.
All right, everybody, welcome to the show. So we have a couple that
still doing this.
First of all, Kent thought that the debate was going to be, is evolution dangerous? Which we were never going to let him get away with. I think he has another debate with somebody else that has that title. We also have kids in the audience. He has high school kids that have apparently been helping build like the dinosaur thing that Kent is working on. So we're gonna try not to swear a lot. So you might find that we are a little less rock hard than usual. Also, if you go over to Modern Day Debates, which is available, I have a link in the description right now, I believe. Also streaming on. If you click over to that, you can watch both. And if you, because he's nice, Jim's nice enough to host us. If you have any questions that you want answered during the debate, like there's a question section after, I want you to go over there, send him money to ask during the question portion, and toss him like a buck or two. But I do ask that you guys don't go in too hard on poor Kent. So try to keep the aggression to a minimum. And hopefully his audience does. If it was somebody else, I might not ask for that. But Kent is a tender soul, and so thank you guys in advance for that. But then after this, and after the debate's done, after questions and all that, we will have questions ourselves, and then you can do.
Sorry about that.
That's cool.
We can do super chats on ours, and we'll answer questions from just our audience as well. So if you don't wanna ask questions towards both parties, which would be Hent Hovind, which would be us and him, then just send it over here, and that's fine too. But I do suggest going over to Modern Day Debates and tossing Jim a subscription.
Are we ready to go?
Tossing Jim a subscribe.
This is honestly such a fun time for me. I totally enjoy it. So
yeah, me too.
It's a lot that you guys would come and hang out, and let's see, almost set.
Because he has a lot of debates all the time on here. So
I have to be honest, I had such a rough day that I was honestly like, will I be cheered up by the time we do this? And sure enough, I'm like, I'm in a good mood. I'm ready to go. So
me too. Today I've spent all day watching various debates that you've done, Kent. So it's been an interesting day.
Jeez.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I think in case Steve, if you can hear us, I think it's we didn't quite hear Doc on that last one. If your guys' audio is still in.
Sorry, I'm muted.
Yeah, he had me muted.
No problem.
Anyway, but I'm glad you watched the debates. Does that mean you got converted and you're going to be on my side tonight?
No, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
Don't think that's
But
how it works.
Maybe this one will do it. Tonight's will do it. We'll get you
that would
converted
be
over.
very
There we go.
impressive if that were the case.
The Lord is great.
All right.
There's room in God's family for all kinds.
All right. Thanks so much. I'm excited. So here we go. Okay, I will unmute us in
All right, I'm unmuted too.
4, 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, today we are debating which worldview is more reasonable, creation or evolution, and we're starting right now.
Is that our signal to go? Should we just go?
That's right. We are live. Thrilled to have you here, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for being here. I am thrilled to be here with you. You turned on my mic just a smidge. And we are thrilled to have our guests. This is an epic one, ladies and gentlemen. We have just 3 titans now of YouTube that are in the same place. I appreciate you guys being so modest, but they really are. These are very influential YouTube debaters, you could say, and want to let you know right away, they are all linked in the description. So if you enjoy their content during this debate, and you're like, hey, I want to hear more, you can check them out right there in the description, conveniently checking on their link. So with that, also want to say, if this is your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button for reminders of upcoming debates, whether they be on creation, evolution, politics, does God exist, all that good stuff. We are thrilled to have you here, whether you're a Christian, atheist, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Jedi, or even Sith. We are glad you're here. So want to mention, today is an unusually huge day in that it's a double header. Coming up right after this, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, G-Man and Inspiring Philosophy will duel, and that's going to be on whether or not the Old Testament actually teaches that Old Testament patriarchs lived to be 900. So it's a new one. We've never had that one before, and we are looking forward to it. But getting to today's, this is just monstrous, as I mentioned. It's huge, and so the speakers are generally going to do just an open format. And so we agreed beforehand, Hugo and Jake are willing to go first, and we'll kind of play it by ear in there. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And also one last reminder, if you have any questions, you can fire them into the super chat. I will collect them. And if you put an @ModernDayDebate at the start, that'll help me out just a little bit to collect all of your questions. And questions welcome from everybody. We only just asked that if you could kind of meet us halfway. I feel like I owe the speakers for them willing to come on. Like, it's a blast to just get to hang out with them and listen to them. And so if you'd be willing to try to be as respectful as possible in your super chats, because if they aren't respectful, which occasionally happens, I'm just not going to read them. And so with that, we will introduce our speakers. As mentioned, they're linked in the description. Thank you all, Kent Hovind, as well as Hugo and Jake, for being here. And Hugo and Jake, as we agreed, you'd start first, so the floor is yours.
Okay, so I think fundamentally, I think more so than certain people who have debated Kent in the past, I have an understanding of where he's coming from, because I was raised Christian. I was brought up in a religious school. And for a long time, I very much believed the things that Kent believes as far as creationism is concerned, and biblical literalism at that. But as I grew older, I grew to understand that there are certain flaws within that ideology, and that is that ideology has to presuppose many things that require a lot of evidence, whereas something along the lines of evolution, being a scientific idea, allows itself to change over time. It's not a claim that we know everything. It's the idea that we're describing what we see in the world as best as we can, and as we go along as a species, we are learning more and more as time goes on. And while there are certain things that become outdated as far as science is concerned, it's a refining process over time. And that's what science is. Whereas I feel creationism is a process by which you arrive at your answer first and then look for evidence for that after the fact. But that's just how I see it.
Would you say that the theory of evolution evolves over time?
Yes, I would. I would say that all scientific understanding does change over time as we gain a better understanding.
And just to buttress that a little bit, I think that any worldview that remains static tends to not be as reliable over time, something that is unwilling to change. Now, that's not to say that if something is static, it's bad. It means that if it refuses to be anything other than static, it tends not to be true. So I would submit that due to the fact that creationism is not willing to bend, it again presupposes the answer and then finds evidence to try to support that conclusion rather than letting the evidence lead you to whatever conclusion.
All right. Well, let me take this one point at a time, if I could.
Sure.
Thank you for your comments here. Let's see. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think mathematics should also be willing to be flexible and change over time? Is 2 + 2, has it always been 4? Is it always going to be 4? What if someone's unwilling to consider? I mean, does mathematics fall into this category?
Mathematics does fall into this category.
What now?
Mathematics does fall into this category. For instance, theoretical physics, right? So you have to, and I know that maybe not just simple addition is subject to something like this, because something as simple as addition is very similar to the theory of gravity. We have forces that act in a natural way that we can expect, but something in the theoretical physics realm, for instance, you ask yourself a question: is this possible? And then you take the math, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There's lots of situations where the math comes out to be, maybe it could go either way. Supersymmetry is a great example of this. I don't think I think when you say that, it seems intuitive at first to say, oh, math is static, when really it isn't. Math is a way that we help prove things from an empirical level, depending on what those things are.
I would also add on to that quickly.
Hold on, one sec. So sorry, guys. I didn't mean to interrupt. I think they had just said that they're having trouble hearing. So let me just turn up your audio. So sorry about that. Okay, let's give it one more shot, and hopefully it's coming through smooth.
Do you want me to just repeat myself?
If in your guys' worldview, are there any absolute unchangeable truths?
I guess I don't understand what you mean by that, because when you're talking about math is descriptive, not prescriptive. Math has proofs. For instance, not only does 2 + 2 = 4, we can show that via math. It's provable in a way that other claims that are more ethereal are not. Math is, by its very nature, the base of all the other STEM fields because it's provable in a way that almost nothing else is in the world. It's just a way of describing things around us.
Okay, so has it always been observed in all of human history that's ever been recorded, and that's even going on today, is all over the world? I think everybody would tell you dogs produce dogs without exception, and cats produce cats, and mosquitoes produce mosquitoes. So that is just as reliably observed for universally. Every farmer in the world will tell you the animals or plants bring forth after their kind. Do you believe that would be a universal truth we should teach the kids, that, hey, kids, it looks like dogs always make dogs with no exceptions? Or do you believe dogs and mosquitoes are related?
I think that's, for one thing, a loaded question. I don't believe that a farmer would tell you that they come and beget their kind, because kind is a very loaded religious term, not a scientific one. But I do believe that for a long time people did believe that. That was fundamentally the worldview of everyone, pretty much, before the Enlightenment came, and eventually that led to the scientific progress that led us to the discovery of evolution.
Sure.
So sometimes things that are intuitive turn out to not be true. I could ask a 5-year-old maybe, or a 3-year-old or something, is the world flat or is it round? And assuming they hadn't been told the truth before that, they might say it's flat. It looks flat, but things aren't always how they seem intuitively. Often it takes a long time and processes of experimentation and discovery and evidence gathering to discover the truth of the matter. And that's the case with evolution. Right. It's a process that takes place over very long periods of time, longer than human lifespans, generally speaking. So we have to look at the evidence.
I would also ask, like, because of course you're taking the biblical approach to this, do you think that if you impregnate some cattle in front of horizontal stripes that they will exhibit these stripes as shown in the early stages of the Bible, or do you think that that's obviously not how husbandry works as far as cattle is concerned?
I think you have a gross misunderstanding of what happened in that story, but I'd like to stick on topic just for a minute. Is there any evidence? Is there any evidence that you're aware of? You said you used the phrase "the discovery of evolution." I guess, well, like I always do in all my debates, as you well know, we need to define what do you mean by that word. And I divide it up into 6 different categories: cosmic evolution, chemical evolution. I'll get them all up on the screen here. Microevolution.
I got to stop you right now because I watched the debate you did with Aaron Ra earlier today and other debates, and I know for a fact you've been told this many, many times. The way you go about this is incredibly disingenuous. When we're talking about evolution, in the colloquial sense, it's pretty clear we're talking about biological evolution of animals over time, or plants as well. When people say evolution in this context, they're not talking about things like the Big Bang, because that's not the apt descriptor for those things. You're trying to cast an incredibly broad net so you can try and bundle all of these concepts together that you don't like, and then all at once try and go at them. But it's disingenuous. That's not how people talk about these things. And I know, again, I watched debates you did today with other people, and they had the same conversation with you, but you refused to change the way you go about this conversation. So it makes me think you're not being entirely genuine in the way you go about this debate. I wish you would.
Slow down.
Okay,
slow down.
Go ahead.
I'm not being disingenuous. I am being very serious. You guys are the ones that want to take what we all observe of variations within the same variety or kind and extrapolate that to mean whales and mosquitoes are related. You are being disingenuous. You're lying if you're saying there's any evidence that any animal has ever produced anything other than what everybody would consider its own kind, sort, variety, or whatever name you want to use.
Do you think
dogs produce dogs?
So do you think that evolution, in the way it's described from a biological sense and the consensus among scientists in the field, do you think that evolution describes a process in which whales give birth to mosquitoes?
I've never said that. Don't put those words in my mouth.
Okay, so you agree? You agree that our definition
do you believe mosquitoes and whales are related if we go back billions of years? So did mosquitoes and whales come from a common ancestor?
So what?
Yes or no?
So yeah,
I can show you the charts from the books. I got them right here. You do believe that?
So what you're saying is you also don't agree with your definition that you gave, which would be a straw man of evolution. You don't think that we think that whales beget mosquitoes or that dogs beget whales or anything like that. You understand that.
I don't believe you believe that. You believe mosquitoes and whales have a common ancestor, don't you?
Okay. So
do you believe mosquitoes and whales have a common ancestor if we go back billions of years?
Okay, so
did they have a common ancestor? Just yes or no?
Well, yes, because they're prokaryotes. So here's the
no, they're eukaryotes. I'm sorry, microscopic organisms.
You're right. But when you frame it like dogs only have dogs, we both know that, like, for any observable effort towards this reproductive cycle, we will only ever see something like that, right? You know that. So when you say, well, do dogs beget cats? Of course they don't, because that's not how it works, right? And you know that we know that.
I've never said they do, and I've never accused you guys of believing it. You are diverting the question.
Why did you bring it up?
But I would like to know why you always ask that question.
Forgive me.
Hold it. I'm trying to show the stupidity of believing dogs and mosquitoes have a common ancestor. I have never said dogs produce mosquitoes, and don't accuse me of that. You believe, and you admitted it, mosquitoes and whales have a common ancestor.
Okay, but so do dogs and wolves. Let's go with something a little bit...
But it's not science.
Because it doesn't look the same, you get very confused, and I understand that. So do dogs and wolves...
I'm not confused. You're confused. You think a mosquito and a whale have a common ancestor. You are very confused.
Okay, that's fine. Do you think a dog and a house dog, like a pug, and a wolf have a common ancestor?
I believe a dog and a wolf probably have a common ancestor. I would
Okay,
agree
so
with
a
that.
dog and a wolf have a common
Okay.
ancestor. So do a
So
do-
one
so does
day
it, hold
did
on,
a
wait,
wolf
no, that's dumb. So does a wolf and a like maybe a jackal, do they have a common ancestor?
That is a good question. See, the purpose of biology,
See, if
one of
we
the
keep moving
purposes is to
back-
classify animals according to their variety. That people argue today, what species does this one go in and what species does that one go in? That's a classification problem that is still going on today.
Sure, but if I keep,
They change them all the time. They say, no, this really ought to go in this family over here, or this ought to go in this order. But the fact is,
it makes sense
they
that
don't,
you would
don't
stop
ever
me.
observe any changes outside of what every 5-year-old would consider the same kind.
Sure, I don't
And
think
I
we
don't
should.
say-
I don't think we should rely on 5-year-old intuitiveness on whether or not something is scientifically true. But maybe that's just because I have a little bit more of a nuanced worldview than this looks like a dog, therefore dogs make dogs. And it makes sense that you stopped me when I started going back, because jackals, if we move back to hyenas and jackals, oh, they start looking a little cat-like, and we can move back to a certain point where you would have to start agreeing with me that visually, because the only thing you're working on is a visual aesthetic perspective here. Aesthetically speaking, you would have to agree that some animals exhibit qualities from two different branching trees, that maybe when you get to the end of that branch, they look very different, but when they start meeting at a certain branch, you would agree that they aesthetically look similar. Now, I would hope that you would make the argument, well, if something aesthetically looks the same, that doesn't mean they're related, and you would be correct, but that would also disprove every argument you tend to make in regards to, oh, well, the kinds aspect of your argument, which is, I know you know this, and I know that you have like a monetary incentive to disagree with us, but I know you've been told
about my
several
monetary
times.
situation. I donate everything to the Lord's ministry. Shut up. You don't know a thing about my monetary situation. Stop accusing me of that.
Yeah, but
you guys have a moral incentive to not want there to be a God, don't you?
What's my moral
I
incentive?
used to be a Christian.
I don't know you well. I don't just barely know your name, but I'd be willing to bet you don't like some of God's rules, like thou shalt not commit adultery. I don't know. I'm just guessing. That's what I've always said.
Thou shalt render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. That's a pretty important one, don't you think?
I always have done that. Sure, I always have done that.
Okay, all right.
Hold on one sec.
Hang on.
I just want to make sure Kent gets enough time to respond. I promised that
Absolutely.
I would give Kent like half the time, and so just to make sure that, Kent, if you feel like you've got enough time to respond, I know it's kind of flying fast.
No, I'm very glad that they finally responded. Yes, they do believe mosquitoes and whales have a common ancestor. I have never said, no, I've never accused you guys of believing that an animal would produce something after its kind. But you somehow think in your brain, going backwards in time, mosquitoes and whales are related. And yet today, mosquitoes only have baby mosquitoes and whales only have baby whales. I think you're living in a dream world to say if you go back in time, they could be related.
Okay, so do you
I don't
think
believe dogs and cats are related.
Do you think
If you go
mosquitoes
back
and
in time. You do.
Mosquitoes and fruit flies are related? Do you think mosquitoes and fruit flies are related?
I do not believe mosquitoes and fruit flies are related.
Interesting.
But I think that would be a good. See, the purpose of classification, 187 here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Alt-DV. Biologists to this day argue about which species something goes into and how many species of ladybugs are there. But you guys have these charts in the textbooks that show humans and mosquitoes are related to a common ancestor. This is dream world. This is imagination. You're welcome to believe this.
Why is it dream
stupid.
world?
I think B, it's child abuse for you to teach that to children. I think it's criminal to teach this to children. And if I was president, I would do something about it. I'd say, look, don't teach this kind of junk to children. If somebody wants to volunteer to come learn it at a private school, start a private school and teach this. But that's not science. Nobody's ever seen any animal produce a different kind of animal.
Okay.
You can believe they did long ago and far away, but that's your religion, and you won't admit it.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Do you think...
Through a diagram that I want to go over real quick.
I don't think I can see it very well. Sure. Okay.
Let me see. Can you
Dogs,
see that? Okay.
cats, birds, and fish.
So this is effectively what we're talking about. Kent, this is how you think things work. Effectively, you believe that God made a dog kind and a cat kind and a bird kind and a fish kind, and then the various different varieties of thus spread out that way upward, correct? This is what you think.
Well, I'm not sure exactly how many varieties he made. I would say that the pine trees, we have today probably 1,000 varieties of pine trees. God might have made 1,000 varieties of pine trees. But I know pine trees and whales are not related. That I would be willing to bet money on.
You'd lose that bet.
I did? Please show me how they're related.
They're both eukaryotes. They're both.
Oh,
I don't.
hey, did you know bowling balls and whales are both attracted by gravity? That proves they're related.
Eukaryotic.
They both take up space. They're both made out of molecules.
That proves they both have mass.
Did you guys go to school to learn this stuff? Where did you go to school? Anyway, who taught you this?
So I'd like to
wherever it was, get your money back, man.
Mm-hmm.
We got a bunch of teenagers in here. How many of you teenagers believe bowling balls and whales are related because they're both attracted by gravity? Or they're both made of molecules?
Don't bring the kids into this. Come on. Don't bring them into this. They don't.
You guys want to bring the kids into it. You want to force this stuff in every public school in America. You're the ones bringing the kids into it. I'm trying to rescue the kids from this kind of insanity.
So do you think that everything that is scientific must be observed by human eyes to be valid?
The definition of science is things that the word knowledge, seer, things that we observe, study, test, and demonstrate. You cannot demonstrate that a whale and a mosquito are related.
Okay, that's
you
not
can
really an
believe
answer
that
to the
if
question.
you want. That's your religion, but it's not science.
Okay, do you think?
Science
Hold on,
is
wait,
limited.
hold on. Do you think
science is limited?
Do you think a religion is a bad thing?
No, I love religion.
Okay, then why are you framing like the fact that if say evolution is a religion, why do you use that as if it's a bad thing?
Well, then why are we all paying for that religion to be taught? Let's pay for all religions to be taught.
Oh, I see.
Why are you concerned about where your tax dollars are going?
So you don't know a thing about my tax dollars.
Do you run?
I know a little.
Do you run a?
And is that the purpose of this debate tonight?
Okay, so
if we go sorry, I won't bring it up anymore. Sorry.
Go to KentHovind.innocent.com and watch this video.
Okay.
We can stay on topic. Back to evolution and creation.
But I'll take that topic on if you want, James. No problem.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. You kind of derailed where I was going here. So do you think that you didn't answer the question. Do you think that observation is necessary, first-hand observation by a human being, for a scientific fact to be true?
There are observations of effects like gravity. Nobody's ever seen gravity. Nobody knows what it is. Mm-hmm. We see the effects of it. I think it's certainly demonstrable.
All right.
And actually measurable.
Okay.
But evolution is not in that same category.
What if I told you it was?
There we go. Zebras and humans have a common ancestor.
Okay. Yes.
That's stupid.
But
Real stupid.
Only from an aesthetic perspective, right? You agree that you show pictures because zebras and humans obviously look different. But what do zebras and humans have in common? What do you think zebras and humans have in common?
They're both created by God.
Okay, so there's one.
They both breathe in air and use the oxygen and give off CO2. There are thousands of similarities.
They have binocular vision. They also have very similar bone structures. They're just formed in different ways. They're both vertebrates. They both have circulatory systems and nervous system. So you can see
respiratory system, reproductive system. They got the 11 major body systems.
Absolutely.
Structure.
The fact that there are some similarities. I'm telling you, nobody in the world has ever seen a zebra produce a non-zebra or a human produce a non-human.
And again, you did the thing that you said you wouldn't do, and we're not making the claim.
To get you guys to see it, you don't want to see it.
No one's making the claim that
going forward, zebras produce zebras going forward. But if you can go back in your mind, a zebra and a mosquito are related. First, you cannot go back. Secondly, that would not be science.
Why do you have to go?
That's why evolution is a religion.
We can go forward. We can go forward. We both live on the same plane of existence. I'd
be willing to bet you $1 million.
Our brains might be in different places.
If we go forward 10 generations from now, the zebras will still be zebras. And the humans will still be humans.
But if we go 10 generations from now to, like, say, Lake Victoria cichlids, which is a fish, we can see easy speciation within 10 generations of that particular species due to the fact that they reproduce at such high rates. You can see the same thing in speciation in bacteria. You can see it in some insects. So speciation does in fact occur within 10 generations of some things, or at least 10 human generations. So the fact that we have speciation to less complex life forms, which does in fact show us demonstrably that we can, with our human eyes, observe evolution. I mean, you're saying
the word evolution. We can observe bacteria producing a variety of bacteria. That's not evolution. It's still a bacteria.
Yes, it is. It literally is.
But it is, and so it's a speciation.
That's why I said define the term evolution first. So you're taking microevolution, variations within the same kind, they're still a bacteria, and extrapolating that imagination stuff, SpongeBob style, to believing mosquitoes and whales are related. You guys need some serious help. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Go ahead.
What is the difference fundamentally between microevolution and macroevolution on a long time scale? Lots of tiny changes that add up over time, and speciation is literally what evolution is. There is no difference between micro and macroevolution.
Let me tell you the difference. They've done this experiment on fruit flies for thousands of generations now. Many thousands of generations of bacteria they've experimented on. All they've ended up with is a bacteria. They started with fruit flies. They ended up with fruit flies. Now, they got some that were blind. Some had 4 wings. Some had curly wings. Some had white eyes, brown eyes, red eyes. But they always got a fruit fly. I think that all the experimentation would show us flies produce flies, bacteria produce bacteria. If you wish to believe something other than that, you're welcome to believe it, but this is not science. This is a religion, and I think it's criminal to teach that to kids.
I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how taxonomy effectively works, because of course they're going to produce flies.
I think I understand it really well.
I disagree, obviously. That's why we're here.
You understand it too, so go ahead. We're on equal ground there.
Yeah. For instance, human beings are humans, but we're also great apes and we're also hominids. When species proliferate,
you might be. I don't know you at all. You may be. I am not. Okay. I'm not an ape. Okay.
You are, though. Like literally,
the virginal cheering.
Speak for yourself, and maybe you are. Maybe you really believe apes and humans are related because you saw a line drawn on paper between them.
We aren't just
humans are both different. They're created by God differently. Humans will never produce an ape and did not come from an ape-like ancestor. You're welcome to believe that if you want.
We're part of the great ape family.
I do not agree. You think you are a great ape. I do not.
It's literally part of the scientific definition.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I do not think I am a great ape. Okay? Go ahead.
Oh, boy. But, you understand that taxonomy is descriptive, not prescriptive, correct? What they're doing isn't... Okay, so when we say we're great apes, it is that because that's how the definitions work. You don't get to disagree with it.
When did they make that definition?
Probably quite a while ago.
Carolus Linnaeus, in his classification system, is what generally is used today, to this day. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. And taxonomists will argue to this day. They have arguments and write papers about why it ought to be in this genus or that genus or the other genus. Mm-hmm. But the Bible simply says they'll bring forth after their kind. Nobody's ever seen an ape produce anything other than an ape.
Okay, let me go back to
the example. Again.
There's monkeys, there's orangutans, there's spider monkeys, and they all produce the same kind.
Let me go back to an example Jake used earlier because you're doing the same thing. Okay, so you already agreed that pugs and wolves are related, correct? Right? You agree with that?
I would say that's probably demonstrable. I bet you could give a pack of wolves to somebody, and over a period of 150, 200 years, they could selectively breed out what they want and end up with a Great Dane or a Chihuahua or a pug just by selective breeding, because it's already in the gene code. But I bet you'll never get feathers or a beak or wings on those wolves, will you?
I bet you might be able to if you really fuck with it.
It's not in the gene code. You can't select for something that isn't there.
One day, a wolf didn't give birth to a pug. It's a slow process over time.
It happens slowly. I agree. It happens slowly. I agree.
You don't think people existed 50,000 years ago, despite the fact they did. Let's say you went long ago before pugs existed as a breed. Long, long ago. And we said to them, okay, here is this animal. What do you think this is? Do you think they would recognize it as a relation to a wolf, or do you think we understand that based on the fact that we know where they come from?
Well, I think taxonomists and biologists, that's what they do. They study creatures and say, wow, where does this fit into our classification system? We do that in our shop down here. You get a new unusual tool. Wow, is this a hammer or a screwdriver? Where do we keep this? Let's decide to call it a hammer and let's put it in this category. And later on, we might change it. This is what biology does all the time. They find if somebody 200 years ago found a pug, they would look at it and say, what happened to this poor dog? Who did this? I think it's obviously a genetic mistake, but they capitalize it. And the pugs wouldn't last in the real world.
The point
this was artificial selection, not natural selection. But somebody 200 or 300 years ago would look at the pug and say, "What? It is? It's a dog, but gee whiz, it's a useless dog."
Correct, but the same
Right.
process applies to both artificial and natural selection. The difference is just what is applying the pressure for the selection, nature or
Right.
man.
No, guys, listen, I'm trying to help you. The difference is much greater than that. The difference is natural selection or artificial selection, either one, is both a selection process, not a creative process. You believe mosquitoes and whales have a common ancestor.
Why do you keep
Whales
saying
don't have
that?
whales don't have wings. They can't fly. So the ancestor had to develop wings or ability to
So whales'
under-
common
hold the breath for a
ancestor.
long time.
Whales have share a common ancestor with cows, which is much closer to that than they have mosquitoes. If
You really believe whales and cows are related? Who taught you that?
Talking incredulously about something isn't an argument, by the way. That's something you do a lot. Just
Right.
being incredulous is not an argument. It's not anything.
So they share.
please don't.
It shares both.
Just claiming whales and mosquitoes are related is not science either, fellas.
It's not a
it's
claim.
claim.
There's
That's not
papers
science.
and- literally, I don't understand who you think you are where you get to decide what or what is not science, because I think people who actually have PhDs in science probably have more of a say as to whether or not it is or not. And I'm
Tell
not
them to
saying
call
I'm...
me. Hey, James, I'll debate them next. Bring them on the program. All of them. Go ahead. You
No,
think
they have
mosquitoes
better
and
things
whales
to
have a
do.
common ancestor, and yet mosquitoes
Correct.
today only produce mosquitoes. But in the past, something was able to produce something that became a mosquito. Was it a mosquito way back then when it also turned into a whale? What was it at that time when it was common ancestor?
Again, it is not a process that
ancestor.
happens all at once. It is a process that happens very slowly over time as a gradient.
Right.
You
That's
tell
your
from
God,
generation-
time. Let's hide it in the mist of time. Here we have a human.
Wait, do you
and
think
a
that
bird
having a god is a
and
bad
common
thing?
ancestor. Is this right here a human
Excuse
or a
me,
bird?
hold on 1 second. Do you think that having a god is a bad thing?
No, I think it's wonderful.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think
So
you got the
again,
wrong one, though.
you do the thing where
You got
you
the wrong
use
one.
where you basically just try to you basically try to say, aha, you also have faith, as if faith is a bad thing, right? Do you
Faith
have-
is a wonder. If it's
faith
in
is
the
a
right
wonderful
thing, faith
Okay.
is wonderful.
Well, how do
If
you
you could put a kid
how
up in
would
a
you
tree and say you got faith enough, you
how
can
would
fly.
you define
I think
something
that would
that
be a
is in
bad
bad
thing.
faith?
Do you believe this chart shows humans and birds have a common ancestor?
How would you define something
Was
as
this
bad
ancestor
faith,
a human
Ken?
or a bird? How would it be classified today? As human or bird?
How would you
It
define
would
faith?
probably be...
Why do you
What
ignore
did it
my
look like?
questions? You should engage with the question when you're asked, instead of going back to the chart because you get uncomfortable because you don't have talking points for the thing that we're talking about.
Oh, I'm not uncomfortable at all. I'm extremely comfortable. I'm having a blast, guys. Your debate number 182 for me. This is a no-brainer after a while.
Yeah,
you guys
no,
believe mosquitoes and
sure.
whales are related.
Sure,
You need
okay,
some serious
mosquitoes
help.
and
I'm
whales
here
and
to
blah,
help.
blah, blah. But what do you define faith as in this scenario?
Well, faith is an interesting. I don't know if that's the purpose of this debate.
It's
you can
not the
believe
purpose
in
of the
things.
debate, but it's important to follow through from
It's
from the
very important
questions.
in the debate. That's where, science is very limited. Science can only do certain things. Science cannot tell you what love is or emotions
It
are.
can.
It can?
It literally can do that, yes.
Okay. Give me a jar of love and paint it red and describe it to me. What does it look like?
Okay, so it'd look like hormones. It wouldn't be in a jar, though, because you need the brain chemistry for those hormones to work. You can't just put hormones in a jar.
So love is purely hormonal.
Love is very hormonal, yes. So it'd be a
Well, you
series
think
of
of a different
hormones.
kind of love. Is there anything to life? Is there anything to life more than just biology?
I don't mean hormonal in that you would just want to bang all the time. I mean hormonal in the sense that it's dictated by hormones in your brain. Hormones are chemicals that your brain releases that gives you different feelings, such as dopamine.
Patriotism?
What about patriotism?
I love my country.
Patriotism
Is
would be a
that hormonal?
dopamine response, a positive dopamine response to imagery that you associate with patriotism. So if you see red, white,
So
and
it's
blue,
nothing but a dopamine response. This
not
is what I said earlier
nothing
about
more
the,
than a dopamine
reason
response.
for
It
not
also
wanting
has
there
to do
be a
with
God.
social things. It also has to do with anthropology. It has to do with sociology. I mean, we're very complex creatures, and to boil it down to say, "Oh, put this one thing in a jar," just shows how reductive your worldview is. When you say you can't even explain love to me, Jake, and I do immediately, and you go, no, but if you put it in a jar, that's totally different, Kent. So
Okay,
what we're talking
Jake,
about two different things. I'm talking
Jake,
about the function of how
I
our
started off
bodies
by
work.
asking you, Jake, hang on. I started off by asking you the question, is there anything outside of the field of science? Are there things like emotions, love, hatred, patriotism? Are those things all biological? Is that what you're saying? Is
Yes.
patriotism biological?
So patriotism
Yes.
is also a biological response. So the positive feeling you get from if you are a patriot, the positive feelings you get are things that happen in your brain. If we take your brain out of your body, you are no longer a patriot. Correct? Do you disagree with that?
I understand you. So everything is biological
Unless you think patriotism resides in the soul, Kent.
in your worldview. So there is no such thing as a spirit or soul in your worldview. Is that correct? I know it is, but I'm
Well,
asking.
of course, that's correct.
Of course, that's correct. Right. So everything is biological. So why do we punish people for doing things that's in their biological nature? Why do we punish Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin? Why do we punish those guys? Why do we punish mass murderers?
Because it's
just
anti.
biological.
It's anti.
Hitler, he shot himself.
Yikes. So we punish people that act in the negative interest of the human race, typically.
In the negative interest of what?
Of the human race, typically. So Hitler, for instance, I don't know if you're aware, he did commit mass genocide and created war, which is not exactly the best situation to live under if, in fact, you are a human being. It turns out that war and genocide is bad for your biological.
What if the world's overpopulated and somebody helps thin out 90% of the people? Would that be beneficial? Because after all, it's overpopulated.
Are you a Thanos stan or what?
No, I'm just asking you. Would that be beneficial?
Would what be beneficial?
It depends on if you're consequent. It depends on if you're a philosophical consequentialist or if you believe in deontology.
Okay. So this is balanced. So this is balanced. This is not to say that if everything is biological, then we are succumb to only the coldest data and facts, right? We also described that we have love, like we have hormones and things. And I would say that you would agree that love makes us do silly things sometimes. Maybe you stand outside in the rain with a boombox and serenade the love of your life as she sits in the window above. Maybe that's a thing, but maybe that's not a thing you would normally do to show your patriotism, right? Because you have different responses to different stimuli. So this is not the case. So if you say to me, okay, we're overpopulated, we should cull the earth, well, that brings up two things. That brings up, one, the data of the situation, the cold analytical, will the human race be better to survive? But two, am I willing to actually go through the emotional toll of killing that many people? Some would say they are. I would think none of us here are willing to do that. And that's because we all have different biology. So yes, it happens to do with brain chemistry. Do you think if you took your brain and put it in Hitler's body and it was do you think that you would have different outcomes? Do you think you would have been like, just because you look like Hitler, you would have been Hitler-y, or what?
Well, so if it's all biology, is mathematics also all biology?
Mathematics is descriptive.
Right, and mathematics is a set of facts.
Well, I'm trying to get you guys to understand the simple fact. Science
it is natural.
Is wonderful, but it's limited. Science is limited. It cannot explain certain things.
What can't science explain?
Science is limited. You're limited to what we can observe and study and test today. Mm-hmm. You can imply things in the past, but you cannot prove a mosquito and a whale have a common ancestor, since we never observe them produce anything other than mosquitoes and whales.
You don't need to observe everything to prove it, and you've discussed this in regards to gravity.
It's no longer science for you to believe that.
It is if you use the scientific method. It absolutely is.
These lines are not part of science. These lines are part of a belief system. They should not be taught to kids in school.
You might believe that because of your belief system, but all of the things that you believe that inform that decision are unfalsifiable and in fact don't have any backing besides your faith.
Well, no. I believe all the observation would tell us pine trees only produce pine trees. We got thousands on our property. Apes only produce apes. Humans only produce humans. Zebras only produce humans, or zebras. I think these lines on here are pure imagination. If you want to believe that, that's fine.
Do you think that
you understand? One second. You understand that
better than you think I do, and better than you understand it.
I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
Graphics like that you like to use from children's textbooks are often vast simplifications of very complex structures, but it's a way to introduce concepts to children. You understand that, right? That's not the.
I think
that chart is
criminal.
Yeah, wait. Do you think that?
Do you think criminal to introduce this stuff to children? It's not science. This is the beginning of a religious doctrine that you guys hold to,
and you don't think religious doctrines are good, so that's fine. Do you think that this chart hangs above, do you think this guides biologists when they discuss evolution, this chart right here?
There are thousands of these type of charts in the books.
Okay,
just
so that's
Google
not an answer.
evolutionary, just type in evolutionary relationships. You'll get 10 million charts come up.
Okay, do you
This
think
saturates
do you
the
think
world.
do you think that biologists today that study in the field refer to this chart?
I think if a biologist studies in any field and his research paper that he writes doesn't match something on this chart, they won't publish it.
So
I think it's censored out.
Based on what? What are you basing that belief on other than your feelings?
Oh, you should watch like the movie Expelled and see how many scientists don't.
We
get their
watched the
stuff
movie
published or
Expelled.
listened to.
We've reviewed
Well,
the movie Expelled, which you can find
Okay,
on our
you-
channel.
If
You
you
go and
reviewed
Jake,
the
and we
movie,
go
I'm
over that.
sorry. I'm sorry, Your Highness. Okay.
No, I'm just saying we've talked about the claims made in that movie and how many of them are false, and many of the people who claim they were censored actually were censured for very real reasons. It's been a long
I see.
time since we reviewed that.
Okay.
Though, so.
Now, you made a claim earlier that mosquitoes and whales are related. What on earth? What evidence would you have for that? Besides, they're both eukaryotes, which simply means they're made out of cells that have a nucleus wrapped in a membrane. Wouldn't that
Yep.
prove the same designer or use that same cell type structure for lots of different animals?
First, you'd have to show by evidence that there is a designer in the first place. By the way, we've been talking about evolution a lot. I'd like to talk about creationism a little bit too, because we want to talk about both worldviews. I'd like to know why you think that there is a creator in the first place, and by what means you believe that that is evidenced.
Okay, let's take this pencil right here.
Oh boy.
I have no idea where it was made or who made it, but I'd be willing to bet you money somebody made this. This didn't happen. This is made out of wood, and this is graphite. And look at that piece of metal. Those are all natural products, but it didn't arrange itself in this order. I think it would be common sense 101 to say somebody designed this probably for a purpose. It looks like the purpose is to be able to write with it and then erase when you make mistakes.
Okay.
I don't know where it was made or when it was made, but I think all the evidence, I think everybody in the world would agree this had a creator.
We get
When
it,
you look at a
Frank.
cell
Okay.
in a human body, you look at a cell in any living cell, it's way more complex
The
than the
sermon.
space shuttle, let alone a pencil. I think there had to be a creator. I think that's obvious to anybody
okay,
who wants
wait,
to
hold
know
on.
the truth.
Okay.
No,
Jake, no, wait, let me say something. This is effectively similar to Ray Comfort's clock on a beach argument, where he talks about a watch being on a beach, and you walk along the beach and you pick up the watch and you assume that watch has a creator because it's so complex. But I would argue in this case, you're completely wrong, because if everything were designed so evidently as you are saying, then you would make no distinction between that pencil or the clock on a beach and all the grains of sand on that beach and all the trees. All of it would look equally designed to you. You understand that that pencil is designed because you
down.
know what a pencil is.
I would agree that the sand on the beach also had a creator by looking at the molecular structure. However,
So
there
then
would
how,
be a
how do you
natural object.
differentiate between how are you differentiating between the design of the clock and the design of the sand if they're both equally complexly designed?
They are both incredibly complex in their own right. However, it's pretty obvious that somebody took the materials of this world and arranged them in an order to make a clock or a pencil. This didn't grow on the beach.
Pencils are.
What now?
Because you know what clocks and pencils are. It's not because they're complex. If that were the case, I would look at a tree and say, wow, that's so complex. It must be designed. But that's not what I...
Yay, you're getting it. Yay, he's getting it, folks. And
No.
Right. You would be right for the first time.
No,
There's a designer. Go ahead.
That's my point, is that
That's
we
my point,
understand
too.
No, the point is that we understand. I feel really bad for the kids in that room, by the way. If there's any kids in that room who your parents made you come to this, I'm really sorry you have to deal with that.
Is anybody here forced to come to this?
Yeah,
How
they're
many
going to
are-
admit that to you.
How many are enjoying this? How many think the
Okay.
evolutionists have blind faith in something that's
Okay.
extremely stupid?
I hate interrupting.
Hold on, wait. I want to
Just-
talk now.
just- hold on.
Do your parents know you're hanging out with a felon?
Just so we don't go into the
There we go. He's getting desperate now.
sidetrack issue.
I can see it.
We want to stay
I'm
focused.
getting desperate. Go
Want to
ahead.
stay focused on the issue.
Okay. So
Okay,
They
go
won't
ahead.
be able to do that, James. They won't be able to do that.
I bet I can, Kent. So,
Okay. So mosquitoes and whales are related because they both have cells with a
are you-
nucleus.
Jesus fucking Christ, Kent. Oh my God.
All right. All
Like-
right. Jay.
By the way, that
Hold
is
on.
a verb, not an adjective. Learn some English. Okay, go ahead.
All right, got it. So, Jesus Christ. All right. Are you guys done slinging between the two of you?
Oh, I'm having
Yeah,
a
I'm
blast.
good.
Go ahead.
Okay, you good. Okay. All right. So you say that your argument is basically from complexity at this point, from design. So you say that pencils are obviously designed, trees are obviously designed, blah, blah, blah. How come a design leads directly to the biblical version of God and not any other version of God? Because I would say that even if that were the
I never said it
case...
did.
Okay.
I never said it did. I think step one is to get over the reason and say, okay, there's a designer. Oh, was this made in China or America? I don't know. Maybe we can find out. But there's a designer. That's her first hurdle, and you guys can't get over that one. The pine tree was designed.
Okay. And
Can you evidence
why do you
that
know
out?
it's designed?
Things like that just don't happen by chance. Any
Why do
place
you know
anybody's
that?
ever observed.
No, that's
natural
okay.
forces.
You can't just say it's just the way it is. What do you have to support the idea that trees are designed?
I think everybody with one eye and half a brain knows the more complex something is, the greater the part of the designer
That's the same
was.
argument. You just made it condescending. So what evidence do you have to support that trees are designed?
Okay, I'm using the same argument because they've been true all along.
You can't just say it's
2 + 2
self-evident.
was 4 when I was a child, and it's still 4 right now. It didn't change.
2 and
there
4
was a
right now.
designer when I was a child, and there's still a designer now, and there's going to be a designer when you stand before
your
him.
argument is just it's self-evident. That's your argument.
It is self-evident. It is self-evident.
You can't defend the self. You can't.
Self-evident.
If it's so self-evident, then there should be more around it than its self-evidence, right? So what is the thing that buttresses the self-evidence of a tree being designed? Is there anything that you can point to non-biblically? Because you said design does not directly correlate to the biblical God. You said it's independent, and that's just the first step. So what about design has evidence for it that isn't connected to the Bible? Because you said they were independent.
If I was walking around the property here in Alabama and found an arrowhead.
Okay, so
even
again,
though it's
you're
made
just
out of
saying
100%
it's
stone,
self-evident. Is there any argument besides self-evidence, Ken?
It is self-evident this thing was made.
So you don't have an argument.
If we brought somebody in from Mars and said, they would look through the gravel and say, wow, this is different. Somebody must have worked on this.
Okay,
wow,
but you do realize that actually does happen in nature, right? Like there are some instances where you think you have an arrowhead, but really you just have a piece of rock that looks like an arrowhead. You do realize this.
That is certainly possible, yes. Is it possible that this could happen just by a freak of nature, grow on a tree maybe?
Maybe. I don't know that we know of any instances of that, but that's not to say it's not self-evident, right? So we have evidence for a creator of a pencil because we understand what pencils are. Would you say that if a pine cone starts growing, we understand that the pine tree grows pine cones, okay? But what is there evidence of manufacturing there? It's not self-evident. We have to look at it and go, okay, is there evidence of manufacturing and design in this thing? And all you keep saying to me, and you refuse to actually address it, you just say, well, it's obvious, because if I go and I look at something totally different than the tree, like an arrowhead, oh, that's obviously designed. But that doesn't have any bearing on whether or not a tree is designed. So, Kent, again, is there anything other than self-evidence that you can point to that's non-biblical, because you said they were independent, that shows that a tree is designed? And I don't think you can.
Well, first of all, self-evident in most of these cases is plenty.
It isn't.
What else do you want?
It isn't plenty.
It
So if you just go to a court of law, if you stand in front of God himself in a court and say, it is self-evident that I'm not a sinner, is he going to ask whether or not you have, does he want an account of your sins? Or are you just going to say, no, it's self-evident, you don't need evidence against my sins? Is that real?
I want to just make sure that
God already has the list of all your sins, guys. I'm trying to help you get ready for that day. It is not self-evident that mosquitoes and whales are related. That is not self-evident.
I want to give
correct what
each of
why
you a
they
chance
do
to respond. We'll go into the Q&A soon.
Okay.
Q&A coming up really quick.
4 minutes or so?
Less than that even. Maybe
Any questions? Fair game on my part. Go ahead. Even on the tax issue, if you want, guys.
Well, no,
Go
I
ahead.
don't care about the taxes. I want you to actually answer one
I'm sorry
question.
for bringing that up, by the way. I get heated because I used to be like these kids in the room with you. I used to be them, and I just feel bad. And I understand that they think I'm the bad guy here. That's fine. But I just get emotionally invested because I've been in their place. So I apologize.
So have you advanced or slidden back?
I've advanced.
I see. How many think he slid back rather than advanced? Okay. Go ahead.
You're asking a bunch of kids in the room. That's not okay to do. It's not.
It's not okay. These are all high schoolers or college students or youth directors and adults. They're fine. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway. back to the creationism thing. I'd like to know,
Never answered my
do
question.
you have anything else other, since we're going to the Q&A soon, anything else other than your purported self-evident design, which I completely disagree with? It's not self-evident. Anything else that buttresses what you believe?
I think that I would point to many lines of evidence. For instance, I think it's logical if there's a designer who designs something like an ink pen that's complex, they would have some kind of instruction manual. I bet this remote control came with an instruction manual that says, here's how you do it. You plug this thing in and you push these buttons and it works. You got to change the batteries once in a while. I think it's complex in its own right, but it also came with an instruction manual, and it serves a purpose. I think the fact that we have self-evident man was designed, I think there's an instruction manual called the Bible, and I think there's a purpose behind all this.
Okay.
Now, I can't prove that, but guys, I'm not asking everybody to pay for my beliefs to be taught in schools. You are. You want this stuff taught to all the kids.
You just said
you had
wait. You said earlier you thought it was child abuse and you thought that they should be taught creationism in schools. You literally said that.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. I said this is child abuse to teach the kids dogs and mosquitoes and whales and humans are related. That's child abuse.
If I was president, Kent Hovind,
I'm not even sure we should have public schools.
You don't think we should have public schools? Oh boy!
Wait, you don't think that's a different?
That's a totally different conversation.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I guess
sounds a lot like you want to have a monopoly on teaching kids what you want.
We could.
Is what it sounds
you
like.
You guys already have the monopoly. You already have the monopoly.
Well,
you
all
don't
you
let
have
somebody
to do,
rock.
all you have to do
guys,
to break in, all you have to do to break into the field, Ken, is have evidence for the things you say. You can't keep saying it's self-evident because, again, that's not good enough for anybody. That might be good enough for you and the kids in the room that have been taught this since you've been born, but it's not good enough for people that aren't part of your religious worldview. So to get people to agree to your religious world...
Is it self-evident that a mosquito and a whale are related? Is that self-evident? Would most people believe they're related if nobody taught them?
Science isn't based on self-evidence. It's based on actual evidence and studies.
What I'm saying is...
Actual evidence of a mosquito and a whale being related because they're both eukaryotes?
Ken, we're telling you that even if it doesn't matter if it was self-evident, even if it was obvious that mosquitoes and whales from an aesthetic perspective looked very similar, if it looked self-evident, right? No, I'm saying if it did. This is a hypothetical. Please stay the course.
I don't think they look alike. I don't
think they look alike either, but please try to wrap around this conversation, okay? So even if it were self-evident, okay, like say for instance pugs and wolves, you agreed that it was self-evident that they were connected, right? That's not good enough. We can't go from an aesthetic perspective.
I think there's lots of evidence that pugs and wolves are related. We could look at the biology.
See what you did there? Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You said immediately you said there's evidence and here's the reasons why. You started listing them. That's what I'm saying. You need more than self-evidence. You need more than, well, this seems correct to convince somebody. And you don't do that. You say, oh, it's just the thing you think is stupid and here's and because mosquitoes and whales don't look the same. Like you literally can't even get off that part of the topic to give us evidence independent of an aesthetic thing. It's just because mosquitoes and whales don't look the same, you're saying it's self-evident that they're not related.
Okay.
Which is not good enough.
Let me give you a bit of evidence. No, I'll give you some evidence then.
Then I want to just let this be the last response for Q&A.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Everybody I'm aware of in recorded history that has talked about or written about mosquitoes have described them as being the same as they are today. Winged insects that fly around and try to suck your blood out. Okay, I think it's self-evident, and we have evidence that mosquitoes always produce mosquitoes. You can come. We got 10 lakes here. You can come watch when they hatch out. There'll be a larva for a while, and they'll turn into a mosquito.
But that's not what the evidence. That's not the self-evidence I was talking about.
That's scientific evidence that the babies come out the same as the mama.
Right, but I was talking about evidence that there's just a designer, not that they have their offspring.
I'm saying the evidence clearly shows mosquitoes have always come from and always will produce mosquitoes. No exceptions.
It's okay.
But you guys want to draw a line on paper between mosquitoes and whales.
All right, buddy.
That's what's not self-evident, and there's no evidence for that.
See, you can't even address the argument that I'm asking. Okay, so it's fine. We'll just move on to the Q&A. I agree that all of the things you just said sound intuitive, but none of them were providing evidence for a designer whatsoever. All they do is sound intuitive. And if that's what you're going to base your worldview on, that's okay. But I just want to let you know, kids in the audience, that there is actual evidence out there for these other things. And what Kent is saying is very, very low brow, like couch science. It's really bad.
Okay, well, let me respond.
Okay.
Kids in the room and people listening, I have taken the position that this had a designer. They have taken the position this did not have a designer.
Nope.
Oh,
That's not correct.
yeah, you have.
Nope. We have
Straw
not.
man
We have not
Did a
taken the
mosquito-
position that pencils are not created by human beings. That
Okay,
is
did a
that is
mosquito
actually
have
dumb.
a designer?
No.
No.
Okay. You think a mosquito is more complex than a pencil?
Yes.
In what way?
In any way.
That's not, again, you're so broad about things. You talk about things like you're a kindergartner. Like you have to be able to see
Simple
something.
question. Is a mosquito more, is a single cell from a mosquito, one cell, is a single cell in a mosquito
Probably.
more complex than this pencil?
You know, pencils are made out of wood, which also has cells, right?
It would depend. So that
Yep, you're right.
That wood has living cell tissue in it. It just now is deceased because it's a pencil.
So is a living cell more complex than a pencil?
Well, the pencil has living wood cells in it that they were
Living wood cells. I don't know about living wood
formerly
cells.
living,
Okay.
but yes. So they're
living.
probably very, very similarly
Very complex.
complex.
Very complex.
They're probably
Okay, I would
similarly
agree.
complex. Okay.
But yet you think the mosquito did not have a designer, but the pencil did.
Correct. Because
You need serious help, guys. Real serious help. Go ahead.
Which is just a which
Again,
is just like an
incredulous.
incredulity is not an argument necessarily.
In this case, there's no appropriate way to describe it. Let's see.
Do you think you can see cells with a microscope on your
Well,
knife?
this is a pretty powerful Swiss Army magnifying glass. You can see some cells with a magnifying glass. You can see some cells without a magnifying glass
so
at all.
if
ahead.
you find a cell, which you would find a cell in the pencil, would that indicate a designer?
I think clear down to the atomic level. Everything on this universe screaming at us, designer, and you guys
Sure.
are not listening.
And why is that?
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. Why don't you listen? There's a designer, guys, and you're going to meet him one day.
And why is there a design? No. You can assert that we're going to meet the designer, but you said that it is evidence that there is a designer, and that is independent from the Bible. But you keep smashing the two into each other because you can't really make the argument that those are independent. You must agree that hold on. Did you learn about science or your faith in God first? Which one came first in your lifetime?
Probably science.
Lies.
I was raised in a family of engineers and teachers. I like science.
Did you go to church on Sundays when you grew up?
What now?
Did you go to church on Sundays when you were growing up?
Sometimes we've different kinds of churches, Lutheran, Methodist, Mennonite, etc. But my dad was an engineer. My mom was a public school teacher. My older brother was an engineer. My second older brother was a public school teacher.
Mennonite school?
So-
okay, that's a different conversation.
I like studying science.
Those are
You
like-
guys haven't given me any scientific evidence
those are
that a mosquito
Amish
and a
people
whale
with
are related
vans.
other than both eukaryotes, which is silly. We're supposed to have Q&A now, but
We can
and
do
our time
Q&A.
is way past.
We can go to the Q&A. Thank you so much. Sorry about
Thank
that,
you so
folks.
much.
It's been a wild one. So next up, we are in the Q&A. Hopefully everybody can hear. Let me know if the audio is shaky. Hopefully it kind of hangs in there. So really quick, Brian Stevens, thanks for your super chat. He said, I was taught as a kid creationism is the right answer. Time and research showed me evolution is real science. Keep studying science and learning. And Kent, if you want to respond to Brian Stevens, you can.
If someone believes evolution, by that I mean anything above variations, macroevolution, if they think that's real science, they're extremely deluded. Nobody's ever seen a mosquito produce a non-mosquito. There might be 500 varieties of mosquitoes right now. I don't know how many there are, but they're still a mosquito.
That PhD biology.
That's microevolution.
You're
Variation
idiot.
within the kind. That's observable, testable, demonstrable science. The
Okay.
pug and the wolf probably had a common ancestor. The pug and the mosquito did not.
Okay, mosquitoes and whales both express Hox genes. These are genes which direct head-to-tail development. This common set of genes is evidence that they have a common ancestor which expressed the same Hox genes long ago. This is from Space-Time
designer.
Boiling. Or a
Common designer.
A common
It's
designer.
pretty-
But a thing that you can't indepently verify after being questioned on it for 15 straight minutes.
You
that
can't independently
designer.
verify they got a common ancestor either.
Yeah, we
After
can.
being questioned
Yes,
on it for
you-
40
about-
years, you won't admit
The
that.
Hox gene is
Yes,
that.
you can.
That's
With
the one we
DNA
just said.
with the DNA.
Hox genes are pretty cool, aren't they? They're amazing. You think that Hox gene had a design? Did your brain have a designer?
No.
No.
I believe you. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Next up, Daniel Schmidt, thanks for your question. And Super Chat, they said, if evolution isn't true, why are no descendant fossils ever found in the same layers with ancestor fossils and vice versa?
He's going to say they are.
Is that question for me?
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I think so.
First place, no fossil would count as evidence of evolution. All you know is it died. If you find a fossil, we got a museum full of fossils here. All it proves is it died. You could not prove it had any children at all. Here's a fossil clam. I can't prove this one had any children. I certainly couldn't prove it had children that lived, and I really couldn't prove it had children that lived that were different than a clam.
Correct, which is why you have the entire fossil record and not individual fossils. That's the entire point of entire fields of study.
By the way,
there's no such thing as a fossil record. There's no fossil record. This doesn't talk. It doesn't have a date on it. Somebody's putting their interpretation on it.
Oh, no.
Okay. There's no such thing as a fossil record.
Being pedantic isn't an argument either.
Go ahead.
The fossil record, by definition, is the fossils that we have and how we believe that they are ordered and the way that they are studied.
You finally got it. How you believe. You finally got it. You can believe anything you want.
Based on faith are two different things, which is a distinction you have never been able to.
Hang on, right here. Clams are on this chart.
You
have faith that a clam and a human are related.
If tomorrow evidence came out that evolution was untrue, I would be happy that we learned more about the world. But that evidence isn't there right.
It's coming out today. I'm telling you, it's not true.
It's not. Here you got. You're just spouting biblical stuff. You're just saying designer.
Well, I didn't spout biblical stuff. I said this clam, I cannot prove it had any children. Neither can you. I cannot prove it had children that lived, and I cannot prove it had children that were different than a clam. I think I can demonstrate that all over the world clams produce clams without exception.
But hold on, you can with that fossil, you can prove from a pretty easy standard here. You can prove that clams, the way that we recognize them, in some variation, lived long ago as well. So you can prove that clams that looked like that clam did in fact have children. So that because we have clams today. So what you're saying is this is not evidence of a thing. You absolutely can.
I can't prove it lived long ago. This might have fossilized last week.
That's not how fossilization works.
There's no date on it. Here, let me get the magnifying glass out. There's no date on this thing. It doesn't say made by a clam in the Indian Ocean in 1421 BC.
Okay, so if clams had language and they did, would you believe it?
If clams had language,
if clams a billion years ago, which you don't believe existed, could write in English and said, Kent Hovind, this clam is from 1 billion years ago, and it wrote it on the top of it, would you believe that was evidence for that being a billion-year-old clam fossil?
I want to give Kent Hovind a chance to respond, and then we got to go to the next
queue. If a clam were to write, Kent Hovind, I'm from a billion years ago, I would know that's a forgery. How could he know my name in the future?
So we agree that the standard of evidence you have is actually bullshit.
I have to go to the next question. I'm going to give Kent a chance to respond, but then I have to for sure go to the next question that I got from the audience.
Go ahead.
Okay. Mind Onion, thanks for your super chat. They asked, for Kent, what process can I use to determine if two arbitrary animals are related or not? Deciding on the instructions before I know what animals they are.
Okay. Deciding which animals are related. I got to be careful with the word related. Which animals would be in the same species category? We could classify. I have 50 screwdrivers down here. If I put all the standard screwdrivers side by side, does that prove they're related? No. They're all designed by somebody to turn a screw in, okay? None of them are related. So the word related is a trick word there, but no, they're not related. I think we could classify them as similar because man likes to classify things. I have my books in one spot, and that's different from where I have the tools. That's normal. Everybody does that. And so I think classifying things is a whole field of science. That's wonderful. And they argue about things, as I've said several times. Which species should this go in, and which clade should this go in? That's normal. It's not a seal. It's not a hard, fast rule for everything. Most of it's been settled over the centuries. I think most people would agree we can classify animals. If evolution were true, how could we classify them at all? Why isn't there an infinite grade of living creatures between a clam and a whale and a human? All the ancestors died off. Where are these ancestors that are half clam, half something else? They don't exist.
They're
Next
dead.
up.
Clams only produce clams. We got thousands of them in our museum, clams. Is there anything that's 99% clam that you guys are aware of? Where's the fossil of the 99% clam?
We already explained to you how this works. We explained that
you explained how it works. You told me your faith. You didn't explain nothing. You told me your faith.
I'm so sorry. Just to get to all the questions, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm between a rock and a hard spot because I know that you guys have responses, and at the same time, I'm trying to whiz through these because we've got a lot. Waikey9, thanks for your super chat. They ask, question for Kent: are you worried that free stock of YouTube debates will start to build and allow your opponents to enter debates prepared for your specific script?
Whoa, I don't understand. James, try that question again. I don't understand it. What was it?
I honestly don't understand it myself.
So
Jake and Hugo, do you get it?
Well, no,
I get it.
As far as if they're worried about my YouTube channel, Kent Hovind Official, I'll do a debate like this every day from now on. Tell them to call up. We each get equal time, and we talk about one topic at a time. I asked a question. I'd like to know, where's the 99% clam?
That's not how evolution works.
Where's the 99% human?
You misrepresent basically everything you talk about. It's completely ridiculous. And you know
I think I explain it where everybody sees it's ridiculous what you believe. That's what I do. Very well, by the way.
No, you explain straw man versions of things that no one actually believes because you understand that the people in the room with you will agree with you.
No one believes that we all came from an amoeba, common ancestor.
Asking the people that you brought with you, yes, we know the people in the room with you agree with you already.
I should bring a studio audience next time that's just one person larger than yours, so I will be right?
They just happen to be here, and we're not going by majority opinion. We have people come visit Dinosaur.
You've asked for their vote 4 or 5 times because you got insecure, but I mean, like, whatever.
Next.
I didn't skew anything.
We just want to speed through these. G-Man, thanks for your question. And G-Man is in the house. Yes, ask both Kent and Hugo, how are ants and dogs related?
How are ants and dogs related? Through a common ancestor a very long time ago.
Which one?
We don't know. Again, whoever's saying that in the room, we don't know. Again, the point of science isn't to say that we know everything today. The entire point of science is to say that we're working on a process over time to discover more and more. So I understand that not having the answer for certain things today is uncomfortable for many people. That's the honest answer in many cases. As a species, we've only had the scientific method for a few hundred years. It's really not a thing we've had forever. So I understand that it's comforting to say, no, I know the answer, and it's this, and it's in this book that I've read my entire life, the Bible, or whatever it happens to be. But that doesn't make it any more true just because it's comforting. I recognize that there are places that we don't understand, but I also recognize that we do our best to find them moving forward.
Big reward.
Okay, my turn to answer. I don't believe ants and dogs are related. Was that the question? Ants and dogs. I believe they both have a common designer. I think there's tool companies that make wrenches and hammers and screwdrivers, and the same company might make a variety of different tools, and they're all designed for a particular purpose, and they might have some similarities, like similar, alloys or things like that, or maybe the trademark written on the handle. I think there are similarities between ants and dogs. They're both made out of cells. They both have binocular vision. They both have a variety of things, systems like a circulatory system, respiratory system, different in an ant and a dog in those, but the spiracles. But I think the similarities simply indicate they're coming from the same tool manufacturer. The same designer made them. I don't think I'm related to you. I think we both have a common designer. I'm related to my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, my children. But you mean that word related gets used. Ants and dogs are not related.
You actually don't think that we have a common ancestor, and you believe in Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark? That is amazing.
What? I do believe in Adam and Eve. I do believe in Noah's Ark.
Related.
Absolutely.
Then every human being would be related if that were the case.
Well, we all have a common ancestor named Adam, but we don't have a common ancestor of a rock 4.6 billion years ago that came from a dot of nothing.
Biological.
Rocks are not biological, and again, you're using a straw man. That's not what evolution says. It's so dishonest. Don't you feel bad about being so dishonest all the time? I would.
You guys should feel bad about being dishonest, saying humans and mosquitoes are related. You should be. That's dishonest, guys. That's criminal in my book.
It's not. It's
Better-
evidence.
Okay.
It's not evidence based on self-evidence like you like to bring out. It's
Forgive me.
evidence based on many
Forgive me for
research
jumping
papers.
in,
There's
guys.
evidence that humans and mosquitoes are related because we both are eukaryotes.
Forgive
Okay.
me. Tech Angel, thanks for your super chat. They didn't say anything. We appreciate your support. Drex Whittle, thanks for your super chat. They asked, can Kent give the scientific definition of the theory of evolution or of macroevolution?
I think I can. Scientific definition of what they believe happens is slow, gradual changes over billions of years gradually accumulate and change animals into some different clade or species or variety or whatever term they want to use. They believe the variations that we see of, let's see, there are 7,500 varieties of apples now in the world, 7,500 species of apples. They believe that is evidence that apples and pine trees and bananas and whales have a common ancestor. They see little variations within the kind, which is observable. They dream that these variations are unlimited. They dream that these variations accumulate, which we don't have any evidence that they can accumulate and turn into a different kind. They believe it. It's they have great faith, way more faith than I do. But the evolution theory teaches that these little variations, gradual changes over many millions of generations will somehow turn it to a totally different kind of creature or plant or whatever they're dealing with. And that, which we never see happen, is evidence that we can trace it back in time, which we can't, to a common ancestor of an amoeba.
We absolutely
do
do
see
that.
That is what evolution says.
Do you have a garden, Kent?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The Garden of Eden.
The Garden of Whedon. Oh wait, are you? Okay, that was a joke that it's not taken care of. But I thought you were in the drug trade for a second.
Admit, that's a good one. That's a good one.
No, I thought you were selling drugs for just a second, and I started to respect you.
You guys got a one-track mind, don't you? Go ahead.
One-track mind.
We've got to give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. You got to.
Well, okay,
so if I could read, I mean,
right.
if Kent gets a really quick rejoinder, just because we have a lot more to go through.
Is Kent typing or is his producer getting butt mad in our chat? Which one of you?
You guys have a fascination with the hind end, don't you?
With butts? You don't like butts?
Okay.
You don't
Next
like
up.
butts? Butts are great.
Go ahead.
How do you not
Shannon
like a butt?
Q, thank you for your super chats, Shannon
Hey,
Q.
ask your students. Raise their hands. Who likes a
Let's
butt?
see. 1 second. Shannon Q asked, can Kent describe the taxonomic differentiation that separates him from being classified as an ape without just saying, quote, it's obvious, or quote, and or fur? So.
Okay. I think when it comes to classifying animals or plants or anything, it can be very difficult. You have to look at many things. You could look at the lifespan. You could look at the genomes. You could look today, just in the last 50 years, we've learned to look at the DNA structure and the number of chromosomes and the number of the amount of genetic material. But they classified them as related way before that was even available. And so I think the fact that apes have more chromosomes than we do ought to say, whoa, something's wrong here. We're going backwards. If you want to go like the fern plant, which has 480 chromosomes, 12 times more than we do, the fern, a plant. So you could try to. This is what classification is all about: to try to decide which animals are similar and where should I put them. Should I put this in the screwdriver pile or in the hammer or the pliers pile? That's a wonderful field of science, but it doesn't prove they're related. My hammers and screwdrivers are not related. Even the two screwdrivers beside each other are not related.
I like
They're
that you
both
have to use
designed.
inanimate objects to make sure that we can understand what you're talking about, because it
When
only works in that
When you go to a
realm.
living creature, it becomes a trillion times more complex. I'm trying to use a simple analogy.
Right,
like
because
screwdriver.
if you use a simple analogy, it sounds correct. Like screwdrivers can't bang and
It
make
is
a
correct.
hammer, because of course not. They don't have reproductive systems. But once you make it, because the answer is more complex than screwdrivers aren't hammers, because that's so dumb.
Okay.
I don't know
All
why
right,
you
guys.
do this. I do know why you do this. It's good
suppose-
for the grift, but it's like,
Okay, suppose the screwdrivers were given the ability to reproduce.
okay, screwdrivers.
What would they reproduce?
Like a
Hammers?
Toy Story. Well, you could imagine that maybe a screwdriver would make a Phillips head or a flathead screwdriver or a star head screwdriver.
You can imagine anything
and
you
then,
want.
And then
just
eventually
want you to
maybe
put
they
all
just
that
wouldn't even
science.
have that, and they just have a little point. Who knows? Who knows in this hypothetical,
Who knows?
really weird world where screwdrivers can fuck? I don't know.
All right, next one. Super chat. Thanks, Saddest John, for your super chat. They asked, is CSI used by cops not a science because they didn't see it, namely the crime, and thus they have to piece together evidence at the scene. I think that this, my guess is it's for Kent, because almost all of them. Okay.
Oh, this is precisely my point. There are different types of evidence. There is circumstantial evidence. There is observational evidence. There's eyewitness testimony evidence. Any cop will tell you there's lots of different kinds of evidence. Just like with biology, there are no kinds of evidence at all to say that mosquitoes and whales are related. There's no observation. There's no eyewitness testimony. There's no circumstantial evidence. They're both eukaryotes. The whale and the bowling ball are both affected by gravity, too. That doesn't prove anything. So I think the evidence that these guys are trying desperately to use for evolution would fail in any honest court of law.
So they're both affected by gravity.
Jesus. Really quick.
Jake, guys, by the way, Jake and Hugo, most of the people watching this are realizing when you resort to ad hominem or laughter, this is a sure sign you're losing and you know it, but that's okay. Go ahead.
I guess. It's just really funny.
How many
that you
think
think
that's a sure sign they're losing? Okay. But thank you for doing this, guys. Come back for round 2 whenever you heal up. Go ahead.
So if
Mothra, Jake,
I mean, I'll go all night if you want. I think you're the one that has the
next up. But Mothra, J Disco, for Kent, does evolution have a goal or is it linear? Those are supposed to be synonymous in the sentence.
Does evolution have a goal? I don't think evolution happens at all. I think there's no goal because there's no evolution.
Gotcha.
Evolution doesn't happen.
That might have been for us. I don't know. Evolution would not have a goal.
Evolution does not have a goal. That would imply some sort of, again, design or intent. Evolution is just a process by which these propagate over time due to various pressures put on them by the environment.
Next up, so point of agreement. Disciple of Kairos, thanks for your super chat. He said, I don't know what this means. He said, Kent, what is the science behind our dirt, dude, and ribs wench origin? Oh, okay. So
dirt, dude, and ribs wench. It's Adam and Eve pejorative, apparently.
Gotcha. So I think he's asking for the science behind the Adam and Eve origin for Kent.
The science behind Adam and Eve? Well, I'm not asking for that to be taught in the school system at taxpayer expense, so the burden of proof is not on me. However, I think that it's pretty obvious that we all are all humans.
Your position.
Why not?
If you want to finish and just to get through as many super chats as we can. Sorry.
I think it's evident that all life forms have the same molecular base. We all come from the same 92 basic elements, and we're all made from it could easily be defined as all coming from rock or dirt with a designer. This came from natural materials. Well, maybe not the plastic, hydrocarbons, but it came from natural materials. But somebody designed those materials into a pen. Somebody designed the materials into a pencil. So I think that if God made all the plants and animals from the same dirt, that would mean we all have the same chemicals, we all have the same 92 basic elements, and we're able to eat and digest each other. The brown cow can eat the green grass and give the white milk, and I can drink the white milk and get the blonde hair because they all have the same chemicals. We're able to interchange and use them. I think just that, the whole system is pretty amazing. It had to be a designer.
Okay, one sec. He just corrected it. He just wanted to clarify his question was specifically like he wants a science answer to the dirt and rib origin in particular, like how you could get Adam from dirt and then Eve from Adam's rib.
Well, I think for a bunch of scientists to take dirt and separate it out and develop and separate out the iron ore from the material and then develop things out of iron, I think that's pretty cool that that's what all manufacturing is, taking natural materials and producing something out of it, whether it be a bicycle or a space shuttle or a pencil. That's manufacturing, common sense 101. So for God to take the dirt and turn it into a human is very reasonable. It had a designer. I don't know who made this pencil, but somebody made it. So I think it's common sense to say somebody designed humans. He used natural materials like dirt to do it, and he left a book behind, which I happen to believe. You don't have to believe it if you don't want. I don't care what you believe. I believe that book is true. I don't think there's anything scientifically wrong with the Bible. I don't think anything's been proven scientifically inaccurate. It says we all came from a common ancestor, and I think that's intuitive. If you go back in time, you had 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents. Obviously, you reach a point where It's got to go back the other way.
He was made out
And
of.
everybody's done population statistics will tell you it all has to go back. There's mitochondrial Eve, where they discovered, 10 years ago, hey, based on the mitochondria, everybody has a common ancestor, a woman, and it was about 6,000 or 8,000 years ago. Wow. Oh, then they said that can't be true, and they started researching again. Yeah, no, they hit it. They stumbled upon the truth.
Gotcha.
We all have a common ancestor.
So
Eve.
you're comfortable with the man was created from dust?
Oh, absolutely. By a God, not the dust creating the man by itself. That's what you guys are comfortable with. You think the dirt made man by itself.
Gotcha.
No,
Yeah, you do.
Man, no.
Just
You don't?
we want to give Hugo and Jake a quick response, and then we got to go to the next cue.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say in regard to you saying you don't think there's scientific inaccuracies in the Bible. I assume you believe in a literal flood story. You believe that Noah's Ark literally happened and that the entire
I really
earth
do.
was
Yes.
flooded.
Yes, I believe that.
There isn't enough water on the planet to flood all of the land on it. So where did the water go? Or where did it come from specifically?
The water in this bottle right here could completely cover the world if it was spread really thin. What do you mean?
No.
I don't think it
If you
could.
took all the water in the atmosphere and the ice caps and melted it, all the land on the earth would not be covered. That's what I'm asking.
Let me explain something to you guys, okay? This is called the Pacific Ocean, okay? It is 12,000 feet deep. This is the Atlantic Ocean. This is the Indian Ocean.
And
The water just in these three oceans, plus the Arctic, would, if it was spread smoothly, would cover the earth 8,000 feet deep.
If you raise the bottom of the ocean, but are you saying that the bottom of the ocean was less deep then? Is that your claim?
I'm saying right now, today, if we smoothed out the world, it would be 8,000 feet of water everywhere.
If you smooth
covering the planet.
So if we completely changed what the earth is, that's your answer.
You said there's not enough water to cover the earth.
Correct.
You're either completely there is. This is the ocean. It's huge, okay?
Yeah, but I'm saying that if you covered the entire earth with water, the oceans would still have to be full, correct? Where is the water coming from?
If you smooth out the world, it would be 8,000 feet deep everywhere.
So your answer is completely change the geography. That's your answer. Okay.
Do you believe the crust of the earth right now is?
I understand plate tectonics. You're talking about thousands of years. Plate tectonics takes much longer. So don't try and bring plate tectonics.
So you do believe there's plates to the earth. I do too. You believe the plates are moving?
Correct, but they move at a rate that would only change things over millions of years, which is what we see.
Is because we see the rate today at, say, the San Andreas Fault shifting inch a year. Could you prove that's always been there? Could there have been a catastrophe like the 1906 earthquake where it shifted 10 feet in 1 minute?
It doesn't matter because this entirely is disconnected from the biblical account.
No,
they give they give locations. They literally give the location of the Tigris and Euphrates River before the flood.
You guys need to come to my seminar. They use the same names after the flood.
Oh, they just named it the same thing?
England,
okay,
they came from York, England, and they named it New York. New York is not York, okay? And they got off the ark and they named that river Euphrates. That doesn't mean it's the same as before the flood. You guys need to listen to my videos more. We'll get you straightened out. Go ahead.
Just as quick, go through as fast as possible. Brian Stevens, thanks for your question. He said, Kent, science uses p-values. What is a p-value?
I don't understand this. Can you spell the word he's saying? T, key?
He says p-value as in like Paul. So like p-value, he says science uses p-values. What is a p-value?
I guess I don't know what he's asking. What is a p-value?
A p-value is statistical hypothesis testing. The p-value or probability value is for a given statistical model. Okay. It's basically how correct they think a certain hypothesis is, and they assign a p-value to it to determine what the chances of something being correct or incorrect are. That's a basic layman understanding of it.
Okay, I think the probability value behind the evolution theory above microevolution is 0, if that's how the scale goes. It's never observed. It doesn't happen. It's not even a useful theory, let alone a scientific theory, to say that
That's
mosquitoes and whales are related. It's not logical, not common
Then
sense.
publish a paper and win the Nobel Prize. You'll make a lot of money that way, and you'll be very famous, and you'll change a lot of minds. Publish a paper.
Wow.
Go for it.
I'm changing a lot of minds with my YouTube. Does that bother you guys that I'm changing a lot of minds with my YouTube?
I don't think
No, you
you're
can do
changing
whatever
a
you
lot
want.
of
I don't
minds.
care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, go ahead.
Next up, let's see. Thanks for that. Peacekeeper, we appreciate your super chat. He
I
said,
don't know, actually.
to the evolutionist, what would it take to convince you that a fully functional Boeing 747 was the result of an explosion in a junkyard?
Oh.
That's, again, it's a straw man argument. That's not what evolution is. That's not at all what evolution is. That's usually used in regard to the Big Bang theory, which is related to evolution, but I'll tackle that anyway. The Big Bang is not an actual explosion. I know Kent tends to like to describe it that way, and the Big Bang theory is an incredible misnomer. They really should have called it something else. It's just an expansion of matter over time. And when that happened, different pockets of material ended up coming together over time, and we have some pockets like Earth where even though entropy is at play because the sun is introducing energy to the planet Earth, things like life can happen. It's not the same as a 747 appearing in a junkyard. That's not what evolution says. That's not what the Big Bang says. Not that they're related.
And also, it's important to know that Boeing 747s don't have biological processes that would help anything change over time, since they can't reproduce. If Boeing 747s could reproduce, then you would see variations within airplanes over time, but that's not the case because they are inanimate.
All right, James, let me give a quick response to that. Guys, if there was a Big Bang, every moment thereafter, the particles are getting further apart, like spokes on a wheel. How can you get pockets of them coming together?
Gravity.
Gravity.
And electromagnetism. And electromagnetism.
Well, then why did gravity hold it? So gravity, these particles are racing apart at light speed or greater.
And
or teaching out greater
electromagnetism.
than light speed. And gravity of these particles is going to overcome this vector and make them come together and form the Earth and eventually create everything we see on this planet. You really believe that?
Yes. So for instance, this is going to bake your noodle.
I want to just I'll give you a chance to respond. I just want to let you know, after Kent, forgive me, I just want to let them have the last word on this because the question is for them, and we'll jump right back to the questions if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, for instance, the Milky Way galaxy is on a collision course with another galaxy that millions of years apart, but they've
is it Andromeda?
I believe it's Andromeda as well. Which doesn't necessarily mean they're going to.
How did they get on this course? I thought they were blown out from a central point.
Exactly.
How did they change courses?
Right, because the point is there's so much relativity that's happening with it. You'd have to ask a physicist for a better answer, but basically it's not just coming out from this single pocket because there are other forces at play rather than just the initial trajectory of this rapid expansion of space and time. So it's again, it just has a more complex answer than it's a ripple in a pond and it always moves away from itself, because that's not the case. It's not only on one plane it's I guess you could just show SpongeBob and the kids will think it's a trendy meme or something. I don't know.
You guys can imagine anything you want. Go ahead.
It's not an imagination. It's just straight up science. I mean, like, I understand why you would think it's unintuitive because you can't really comprehend it, but I don't think the fact that you can't comprehend something makes it false.
Next up, let's see. Peacekeeper,
My
thanks
point
for
exactly. Thank you.
Let's see.
What a fresh meme.
Translator Carminum, thanks for your super chat. He said, Kent, would I need to prove that your cousin had kids in order to conclude that you descended from your grandfather?
Oh, no. I think we understand relationships pretty well. I think my cousin is a human, and my grandfather was a human. And I don't know, but I would be willing to bet if we went back 500 generations, probably can't go back that far, they were still humans and looked similar and had 2 arms and 2 eyes and 2 legs. And we're human. And I think that's all we've ever observed in human history is humans produce humans.
Okay, history's only existed since Tacitus, so even before, you've experienced this prehistory as well. So history. When you say history, you're using it in the wrong context altogether. History would be a compilation of of human events, corroborated by third-party things. What you're discussing is not human history, but human existence. And human existence is only tracked to like 250,000 years ago when we start splitting apart. Like Neanderthals existed and weren't fully human. They weren't the same species. We were able to breed with them because they were a close ancestor, similar to breeds of dogs and things like that. But most Caucasian people, have roughly around 3% common DNA with a Neanderthal. So yeah, you're part that for sure.
Next up, thanks for your super chat, Peacekeeper. They said this person can't even admit that a mosquito is more complicated than a pencil. Incredible. I'm not sure. I think that would be for Hugo and Jake because they tried to stump you on the last one, but I might have missed this during the debate if it was discussed.
Sure, the mosquito being more complicated than a pencil. Again, it comes down to trying to box people into corners with very broad questions. By what metric are you saying a mosquito is more complicated? In a general sense, if you really want to peg me down, yes, mosquito is probably more complicated. I don't think that changes the argument.
Right, and it wasn't whether a mosquito is more complicated than a pencil. He asked down to the cellular level, is the cell of a mosquito more complex than the cell of a pencil? And if you're going with the only cell in those pencils would be the ones in the wood because the graphite doesn't have cells; they have molecules. It would be the answer would probably be no, considering especially if both of them are dead and the mosquito isn't alive, they would both be dead cells from former living things. They would be roughly the same. The plants and animals have similar cell structures. Obviously, they do different jobs. But so when he was asking on a cellular level, no, it's not that much more complex. I don't know. At that point, you would have to define what part of complexity you mean, because both plants and animals respirate. They both reproduce. They do a lot of the same functions. Share energy in between it. So when he was asking that, I just don't think he actually understood what he was asking.
Again, that's the problem with a lot of the things Kent
Right.
says. He talks in very broad terms, very specifically, so he can control the argument, and he also
You
talks
could
at a very
try.
kindergarten level because he thinks that things need to be self-evident for them to be true.
There's another option, guys. I explain it so clearly the average person sees it, and it embarrasses you for believing something so dumb.
You think wait, do I come across very embarrassed?
Go ahead.
Next up, True Empiricism. Thanks for your question.
No
Or
is
in
the
super
answer.
chat, they said, we know intelligent design makes languages today, so
We know intelligent design makes languages.
well,
What?
yeah, so frankly, the first sentence is a little bit hard. They said, we know intelligent beings, sorry, that was my mistake, make languages today, so we don't have to wait for an answer. DNA is a language. What article can the evolutionists present showing evolution doing the same?
DNA isn't a language.
DNA is not a language.
Just because we apply letters to the different types of DNA to describe them doesn't make it a language.
DNA is a chemical process. DNA is made of chemicals.
Right. To say DNA is a language is like saying the chemical makeup of a rock is a language, which is really stupid. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how DNA works, and so we use similar terms in language. Like we might say something is communicable, or we might say that DNA dictates this or that. But it doesn't mean from a language aspect. It means from a molecular aspect. DNA, I think, and I hope most people understand this. DNA is real, and DNA is a thing that we all have, and DNA is a thing that dictates things like hair color, eye color, the way that you're susceptible to certain diseases. And when two people mate and create offspring, part of those DNAs meld together, and that's why you have things like recessive genes. So, for instance, if Kent and I were able to mate, one of us would have we'd have probably pretty fabulous hair. So, like, our offspring would have dope hair. So, you know what I mean? Like
Not interested
Next up,
at all. At multiple levels.
I'm not either. I don't think you have a vagina, but
next up, Peacekeeper, we appreciate your super chat. They said, so you're still not going to admit that a mosquito is more complicated than a pencil.
I literally just said that in a broad sense, yes, but again, we were talking about the cellular structure at that point.
Right. So I don't think a single cell of a mosquito, for instance, is more necessarily complex than that of the cell of the tree. Whether they're both alive or they're both dead. That's the difference. Now, from a broad sense, I would say that a pencil is a deconstructed version of a tree. So it's a weird question to ask, because one is a biological thing and the other one is manufactured. Now, if you ask what's more complex between the wood of the pencil and the graphite of the pencil, it's probably the wood of the pencil, because it has cellular structures, it has different things going on, it's biological. The graphite is just a collection of carbon and different makeups of a molecule. So that's a better question to ask and would be an honest question, but Kent's not interested in that kind of thing. Kent is interested in...
Oh, guys, don't do that. I'm interested in honesty. That's
you?
why I think it's dishonest. Very much, I think it's dishonest. You believe a mosquito and a whale are related. That is dishonest,
See,
fellas.
but you keep... Oh my God!
No, it's not.
Can you please just for me, Kent? Could you use another example besides mosquito and whale, just at all?
Okay.
Just any example.
A fly and a whale. How about a fly?
How about
and
a fly and a cow? Just so I don't have to hear you repeat it again. It's like
the flies are attracted to the cows, you know.
They're attracted to their butthole.
Next one.
You are really, really fascinated with that, aren't you? Okay. Question. Here, is this ink on paper, or is this portraying some information? I took the real tour at Dinosaur Adventureland. This is not just ink on paper. This gives information in a language, English. The DNA, which got left here, I didn't get a chance to respond. I think the DNA is a language 1 billion times more complicated than the English language, and it spells out how to make every single life form on the planet. I think the DNA similarities between humans and all the different animals is evidence. Wow, it's all written in the same code. DNA. This is amazing.
Would you think that a god that makes things that stay static is more or less impressive than a god that can make things that can change over time?
I think God did make things that can change over time.
No, the way we're talking, wouldn't our version be more impressive if a god could go, this amoeba is going to turn into a human someday? Boom. Isn't that a more brilliant god than the god that just says...
That's a retarded god that doesn't know what he wants and can't make it right first time.
Just call him
is your brain just a collection of chemicals over billions of years?
You just call God retarded.
Is your brain a random collection of chemicals that got together by chance?
A random that got together by chance?
You said a Big Bang exploded. Was your brain in that dot that exploded, the Big Bang, and all the molecules got together and somehow formed into your brain?
No, but you're saying that that's what happened with a god, right? You're saying that literally God took material that is non-biological dust and created like, how is that different from a Big Bang? Is it just because God has powers?
What's more I have a question. What's more complex, an explosion or an all-powerful being in space that does literally anything, if we're talking about complex things being less true than simple things?
I think all human experience will show you explosions produce big messes.
No.
Big messes.
I asked what's more complicated, an expansion of material in space or an all-powerful being with motivation, a mind that is all-knowing and all-powerful? What's more complicated?
I think the all-knowing being that created everything is not only complicated, but amazing. It's amazing he loves us. It's amazing he puts up with people cursing him.
So it's more complicated, yet in evolution you think the simpler answer is correct, but in this case you believe that the complicated, vastly more complicated than an expansion in space is the answer because it's in a book that you read.
Okay, I defy you to show me any place where a hand grenade exploding has the fragments attracted to each other and come back together.
You could do that. You could if you honestly
don't come back together.
If you did that,
the Big Bang is absolute insanity. Insanity to believe that.
Why?
I've got to
because it's less complex than an all-powerful God.
If we can
there's
ask
no observation
the next
for
question.
it. It's not science.
If we can ask the next question, forgive me, Kent Hovind, CPA. Kent, it sounded like you were open to a variety of questions. He said, "How do you teach high school science with no college degree?"
I have lots of college degrees. Why would they say that?
That was the super chat. Thank you very much. And Epic Christ, thanks for your question or super chat. They said, if creationism is false, would you still be a Christian? I
didn't hear the question. If it's for me, what was it?
They said, if creationism is false, would you still be a Christian?
If the creation story could be proven false, I would take whatever can be proven correct. I want truth. I want the truth. And if the obvious truth to me is there must have been a designer for this pencil, there must have been a designer for an arrowhead, there must have been a designer for the complexity of life. And it's common sense that he would write a book and tell us what he wants and why he did it. And I think I have that book. Now, you don't have to believe it if you don't want to. I choose to believe it. I'm not requiring that to be taught to everybody.
Thank you.
And so,
next up, Jacob, we're almost to the end. Thanks so much for your patience. Jacob Dunkel, and some of these are a little bit out of order. He said, as a biochemist, my scorecard thus far is Hugo and Jake 100-0. So Kent, if you want to respond, you can.
They're voting on who won. I vote. I won.
I heard someone say. Heard someone say, "Who cares?" He's a biochemist.
Someone who knows more about this than any of us in the chat.
Like
again.
this is like, okay. So neither Hugo and I are biochemists.
Forgive me. Just to get, there are more super chats. Forgive me. I hate to do this.
Whatever.
By the way,
wait a minute. If a biochemist, if somebody on the chat believes in evolution, James, schedule them for the next debate. I don't even know who they are. I'll take them on.
Okay. Jacob Dunkel, you're invited on if you'd like to come on. Thanks for your super chat. The Jim Tanker, thanks for yours as well. He said, question for Kent, not a Dr. Hovind, so if you want to address that, you can. And he said, why are you getting so red? So this is from a while back, so I don't know if you're still red, but if you want to respond, Kent.
Why am I getting so red? We live in Alabama. We've been working outside all day. It's hot. I got sunburned. I am having a blast. I'm not the least bit embarrassed or the least bit scared. Bring them on. I'm very happy, but I do get a sunburn easily. I'm Norwegian, light skin. There we go. Border store to Tilly blonde hair. So we get sunburned easily, and I would have to work out in the sun. I actually have to work sometimes for a living, like some of the evolutionists never do, but go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Movie Theory, thanks for your super chat. Sorry, these are a little out of order. Movie Theory asked, said Hugo and Jake have more subscribers and more viewers than Hovind and make more money. So are they hypocritical for asking if Hovind is making money off of this?
I very much doubt we make more money than Kent Hovind. I think he has a lot of people who donate to his cause, whether I agree with him or not.
We don't make a penny off of it.
Our channel's not monetized. Is your channel monetized, guys?
Yeah, but you have an organization that I imagine gets donated.
Yeah, just yes or no. I didn't hear you. Is your channel monetized?
Correct, yes.
Okay. I don't monetize mine. Go ahead. Next question.
Okay, your organization gets donations.
Anybody that would donate to somebody who believes they came from a rock would be an idiot, in my opinion.
Next up.
That's not helpful. That's not helpful to I'm not look, man, I'm not gonna shit on you making money. That's your business as long as you're paying your taxes at this point. I don't care.
I pay every tax I owe.
Next
I always have.
Area. And with that, just to wrap up, because we were over time, thanks for everybody's support and patience, especially during my audio mistakes at the start. Still learning in this process, apparently, after a year. But I want to say thanks to our speakers for coming on. They are linked in the description. So if you enjoyed our speakers, we encourage you check them out at their web pages or channels below. And again, I just want to say thanks to our speakers for coming here and hopping in the hot seat. And with that, want to wish everybody well and say thank you for your questions as well as your support, super chats, and stuff like that. We're excited to have you here. So with that, keep sifting through the reasonable from the unreasonable. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Let's do it again. All right, bye.
See you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. I think, let's see, we might have lost. Usually Kent leaves pretty quick. So thank you, Hugo and Jake. Thrilled to have you guys here. Sorry about the tech issues at the start. That's a little bit embarrassing that we are still working through that. But thanks for being here.
That's okay. Are you still live on your end, sir?
We are done. I just did the closing video.
Still live on my end. I know you're a Christian. How long is that going to last?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's going to change.
I don't necessarily care if it changes. I'm just wondering because you seem much more receptive than your kin, your religious kin here, to arguments, and I'd be interested to wonder if you would ever be down to have a discussion, just on my Twitch or something.
I'd have to brush up because
well, it doesn't have to be apologetics. I just straight up asking you questions about your faith and how you reconcile it, because you don't necessarily have to be prepared in it, right? Not even a debate, like literally just a discussion. I like to talk to people like that. Because
that means a lot.
Thank you. Because in private conversations between the two of us, you have expressed like, oh man, not about Kent, but like about other guests or something, like, oh man, I don't know about this one, like, you're very deferential and you give us a lot of space, which is nice. But it doesn't seem that you line up on everything with everybody all the time, and that's pretty cool.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I will say that moderating the debates has taught me that, I mean, I knew it before, but I've seen even maybe more so now, like there are a lot of Christians that are difficult to deal with. And that's unfortunate, because it's like, I would say, you know, every side has its people like that.
Oh, for sure.
But I mean, it is true that I do see, I'm like, I don't know if the internet debate scene draws some like religious people that happen to be, not talking about Kent. Like Kent's actually pretty kind to us. Like he's never been mean to me or anything. But it is true that like some religious people are just like, what is going on with you? But yeah, so I mean, I'd be happy to chat. I appreciate you making the offer, and a discussion sounds great.
Yeah, it's just it's rare that I can like get religious people to come on because they hear the word atheist and they tend to lose their minds a little bit. They tend to freak out. There's a little bit of there's a lot of bit of indoctrination and like I taught a while back and they found out I wasn't religious, and then they're like, I was like, oh yeah, I identify as an atheist pretty much functionally, and there was like 4 or 5 students that were like, oh wait, you believe in Satan? And so there's like, no, that's very different. Satan worship is an active belief in some Satanists would disagree, but believing in Satan is a very big claim, and no. So I don't know. I find it very interesting that not all that there's so much there's a disparate nature to specifically Western Christian beliefs at this point. So
yeah, it's an interesting landscape, that's to be sure. I wish I could chat more now because I
know you got a thing at 9, right?
That's right. So I gotta like quick whip around, but I appreciate you guys being here, and for real, like I think it should slow down like late August, and I'd love to come on and just hang out. So I appreciate you offering.
Yeah, absolutely. Just DM me, and if I'm streaming, you can come right on. We'll have a discussion.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much. I hope you guys. Great to meet you, Hugo. I appreciate you coming on as well, and yeah, I hope you guys have a great.
Sorry, I got heated in that. I apologize for the. I got off topic and not in a nice way.
It's not. I think it's. I think everybody's fine. They've got thick skin, and I think that. I can't know for sure, but I think Kent enjoys the like the intensity of the debate. So I appreciate you guys coming on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Hugo, I'm gonna jump over to Discord so we can take a little bit of a Q&A for a little bit from the audience, and then all right, good luck in your next debate. If anybody wants to go over to Modern Day Debates, I have the link in the description right now. There is another debate happening like right now. Do you want to pimp that just real quick? And then jump
I appreciate that. Thanks. That means a lot. It's G-Man, popular or infamous, depending on who you are. Some people are critics. He is facing off with inspiring philosophy. So that'll be a really interesting debate on the Old Testament.
We have a little bit of history with G-Man, so enjoy.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Yeah, later.
See you.
Okay. And video call. Bum. We've got the Hugo. I know.
Okay.
Existential dread. I forgot how strictly obedient people are on the religious side. The applaud farming and the cheering was kind of off-putting. I forgot how firmly. Next time we debate Kent Hovind, I'm going to invite all my friends over.
I
And
at
we
least
should
want
have
to
a cheering section.
Next time, I want to make sure he doesn't have an audience because that shit is ridiculous. I understand that I probably stepped over a line and was just an asshole ad hominem him several times.
Ad hominem him. I like that.
You know what I mean? But that shit gets on my nerves. Like,
I agree.
dude, stand by your laurels and the points you make. Don't bring an audience to applaud for you.
I knew that was going to happen, which is why I was laughing at him. But that's fine. I think we did a pretty good job. He could not answer several of our questions, and he just went on his rhetoric. He is not prepared for an honest conversation, which is not super surprising. Did you see that the guy that was his tech thing was super butt mad at me in the chat? Oh, there's a chat, and he was like, I can't believe you're so disrespectful eating and drinking during this debate. And I was like, fucking, I don't care. You think what?
People drink things during debates regularly because
I
it's
had
both talking for
I
long
have a
periods
throat.
of time.
Yeah, but I think that was a fun debate. I think it was entertaining. So anyway, anybody that wants to send a super chat,
I don't think it was productive, but I had a good time.
No, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's just a spectacle. If anybody wants to send a super chat, I know that many did in support of us during that, so thank you. But we will answer any questions. I think we're going to stick around for between 15 and 30 minutes. It just depends on the questions and the quality of those questions. So feel free to drop a buck or two, and we'll make sure to answer. So yeah, he like and that's the thing, like Kent was like drinking some fucking like tea or kombucha or some shit earlier, like what? And it was like brown and gross and had like
whatever
silt at the bottom. Like, well, I know, but I'm just like, why is this tech guy like fucking weird? So anyway, I invited him on. I'm gonna hopefully debate Kent's tech boy at some point.
Boy.
I don't know. He's like, I'll bring my brother on too, and I was like, weird. That's okay. Whatever you want to do. It's about getting street cred. The sweet YouTube street cred. I mean, this is a long time coming. He was in prison for a while though, so he couldn't get in touch. Which
for those of you who don't know, that's what I was alluding to many
Yeah.
times when I was being an asshole because I was mad. I get emotional and mad about this because, like I said in the debate, I was those kids, and I feel so bad for them because I feel like there's got to be at least one or two kids in there, assuming they're even like teenage or whatever, that are there because their parents want them to be there, and of course they have to clap. I'm not saying most of them because I'm sure plenty of them are completely on board with Kent's talking points, but God, it frustrates me. It frustrates me to no end, especially after he's been shown to be a con artist, basically.
yeah.
It's absurd. Maybe we should debate him sometime about his fraud issues, because I know during his thing he claimed he was a tax what's the word protester, and one of the ways he tried to hide the money was he claimed, oh, the money, it's not mine, it's God's. Like,
sure.
I
I don't know that I care about that necessarily.
No, but I just get mad.
Where were Hovind's super chats coming from? The other debate, the other modern day debates, which there is a link, and he's a much smaller channel. He's only got like 5K subs or whatever, but he's always nice. He is a Christian, but I think James is a nice dude. I've never had a bad interaction with the guy. He's always really fair. And I don't know, he's just a nice fella. So, yeah, Kent Hovind is. When I said he has a monetary incentive, I mean he literally makes his living doing this. And
see, I don't know if that's fair because we do this for a living too.
Well, no, but okay. So here's the thing, right? If we were to find evidence that like we don't believe in evolution because there's money in it, right?
Sure.
That's the difference. So that's what I'm talking about.
He would argue he doesn't believe in creationism because there's money in it. Something. I'm on the fence about whether or not he really buys his own bullshit. I really don't know. The tax stuff makes me think he might just honestly be in it for the money, and he's conning these kids and their parents and everyone. Yeah. But I don't know. It's possible. Anything's possible. People believe dumb stuff sometimes. It's fine.
Yeah, maybe.
I definitely didn't come off very well in that debate, though, and I recognize this.
That's okay. I was there. I have the patience of a saint. Why are you still requesting $900? Wait, who's requesting $900? What?
A big reward.
Amanda! Does Kent think the creator has a creator? No, of course not. Who's requesting $900? I don't know what that means. I don't think he was a very good moderator at all. So anytime I've had a debate with Modern Day Debates, or on his channel, this is the third one, I think. He's like, I'm just gonna stay out of it. You guys go. If it gets too chippy, I'm gonna ask you to stop. That's it. And he wants to stay out of it. He's not here to, I guess, like, make sure no one crosses certain lines. He's there to make sure it's like you can hear it, which I appreciate. J.R. Pone. Is that Jeffrey? It could be. Kent's mask slipped and he admitted he'd get rid of public education. These people have a goal and an agenda and have been implementing it for years. I wanted to screw him on that one, but Hugo had some Hugo time going. You guys don't make a living by lying. You're better than Kent by a long shot. How do you know? How do you know I'm not in part of the evolution Illuminati? I don't know. I don't like that he has to misrepresent it either. I think that's the worst part of his argument. And besides the fact that he just goes to self-evidence. Like, if you could verify it outside of self-evidence, it would be compelling, but he can't. Which is why I tried to nail him down on it, but he didn't.
If we talk to him again, we need to, for sure, more hammer on, because the way that this debate went, we essentially talked about evolution the whole time and barely touched upon creationism.
Yeah.
And next time, if we do this again with him, which I doubt he'll want to, but if we do,
he said he would.
Yeah, well, let's see. If he does, we definitely need to focus more on creationism and nail him down in his own beliefs as opposed to our own. Because, while I do know a decent amount about evolution in a broad sense, I am not a biologist.
Well, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. You don't have to be, because he's not dealing in the complexities of it. Like you couldn't say like a change over in alleles over a long period. Like he doesn't give a shit about that. What he wants is to be intuitive. So if you can make creationism seem unintuitive, which is why I brought up that Bible quote early on about the stripes thing, and he's like, "Oh, you very misrepresent that." I almost read it, but he started drawing at you. So like, I just don't understand how you can like defend creationism from an independent from the Bible source without going to the Bible. I mean, and he does that all the time, right? He's like, well, there has to be a creator. Why does there have to be a creator? Well, because the book says so, and I believe that book. You don't have to believe it. And it's like, okay, but that's not independent from the thing. Billy Boy Blue with $10 reduce. I think Kent is way too smart of a guy to believe the crap he spews. I disagree, but I do think there's a version. I think he's a Christian. I don't know if he's a creationist. Does that make sense?
He definitely. I even talked to it. I said to him early on in the debate, "You've been corrected on this multiple times."
Yeah.
And he never changes his rhetoric because he has a way he goes about things, and whether it's honest or not, I'm not sure. But he sure sticks to his guns, no matter how many times it's explained to him that they're bad.
RR with $2. If Bible says Earth is flat, why can't believe? Yeah, I don't know. Kent doesn't believe the Earth is flat. Kent has made a video recently that the Earth is not flat, so that's interesting. This is still going. You guys are beasts. Thanks, I think. Yeah, he was not very comfortable. I know he said he was comfortable, but usually when you assert, "Oh, I'm very comfortable," it's kind of to almost out loud reassure yourself. He didn't seem very comfortable. Maybe I'm reading into his body language and stuff, but usually when I debate people, they tend to start appealing to their if I'm debating a streamer, for instance, they tend to start appealing to their chat when they get uncomfortable with me, which, I mean, he did fucking constantly throughout this entire thing. So anytime he felt like he was getting pinned down, he'd be like, well, how many people think mosquitoes are whales? And clap for me. And then he'd have, his 15 kids or whatever clap for him. And it's a way to deflect from the thing. And then if I laugh at him for saying screwdrivers can't make hammers, because it's so obviously out of the realm of what we're talking about, right? Like, it's not biological. They can't bang. Like, it's not a thing. Yeah. And he was real scared when you asked him what made faith good or bad. Yeah, he didn't even entertain that question. This is the type of stuff I like to ask. I'd rather ask a question that he can't answer than assert something because he's not going to listen, right? So this is my debate tactic. I know Hugo usually just goes for the throat rip. I like to make him poison his own well, because like if I ask him a question and he makes an assertion, he's stuck on that. He can't get out of it. He's going to have to back that up. And once I asked him, and this is part of the best part of the debate, in my opinion, when I asked him, is it independent from the Bible that creationism is true? And he said yes, he couldn't back it up. He had nothing. He just kept going to it's self-evident. And that was the best part. What Patreon level is Evolution Illuminati I want in? $500 a month. $5,500 a month. $550,000 a month.
We have cool pyramid hats, though.
We do have cool pyramid hats. What was your favorite part of the debate?
Oh boy.
God is retarded quote? Like, what the fuck was that about?
That was
we don't like using the slur retarded to describe people, but when he called that version of God retarded, like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
You guys are really obsessed with butts.
Him saying we're obsessed with butts, and me just being like, yeah, man, butts are great.
Butts are great. Who doesn't like a butt?
Like butts?
Imagine not liking a butt. Hey, kid, I like...
I'll appeal to the kids in that room. They like butts, too.
Every kid in that room liked a butt. Absolutely, they liked butts. And if any of them were like, come from... He said he went to Mennonites. I do not believe he went to a Mennonite church at any point. Like, that is... Do you know what Mennonites are, chat? Mennonites are Amish people with vans and cell phones. It's not a joke. What other debates of his did you guys watch?
I watched the R and Ra one, but again, not super productive in the sense that Kent stays on his same thing. That one was about 2 hours long. I watched some of the logic videos that were... It's not necessarily a debate, but...
I would much rather ask him questions.
Yeah, I agree.
Hugo has bits of Hovind jugular in his teeth. Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of just going for the throat, which is funny. It doesn't make him stick to his plan, which is also good. It kind of throws him off, but he always just goes back to his like, mosquitoes aren't whales. Like we know mosquitoes aren't whales, dude, but they do have a common ancestor. It's just kind of hard to imagine the common ancestor because
it annoys me to no end that he will make a claim and then backpedal and be like, I didn't make that claim. Well, yes, you just did, or else you wouldn't have said it.
Oh, yeah. I have a question. What is the common ancestor of a whale and a mosquito, to the best of our knowledge? It's probably not either a bug or a mammal. It's probably much further down the line.
I think R and Ra has a whole website that's like, I forget if anyone in the chat knows what it is, but it's basically a very comprehensive breakdown of speciation over time. A very complex, more thought out version of basically the thing that.
Well, yeah, I just want to know where those branches intersect, because I think it's interesting. It was a eukaryote. Well, not just any eukaryote. Of course it was, but an ancient sea creature. That's my assumption as well. I just want to know if we have an example organism for that moment, where those two branches get in there. Mosquito whale, the chimera mosquito whale. That's true. Alpha Enemy, not Mennonite, Men at Night. He went to a gay church. It wasn't really a church though. Nice. Jacob Dunkel, $5. I wanted to interject so many times to explain the chemistry behind so many of the processes you guys were talking about, but you guys were terrific. Hey, thanks. We haven't actually talked about evolution in some time, so it was kind of nice to get back to the roots for a bit and do the OG. When we were dealing with Genesis, you have to deal with things like Big Bang and evolution because it goes into like the biology of how things work so much. But Bailey Boy Blue, you guys are just butt apologists. That's true. I am a butt apologist. I am pro butt, and I am not ashamed. If you guys aren't pro butt, then you're wrong. Meta Knight.
A big reward.
Phylogeny Explorer Project is the name of that website, by the way, if anyone wants to check it out. We should probably pull that up next time we talk to Kent, assuming it happens.
Stuart Davis with $10 reviews. It drives me crazy that Kent doesn't understand it doesn't matter how he defines evolution. If science doesn't define it that way, then he needs to argue the definition understood by the opposition. I agree with you. Lex Griffiths, £5, euros? I don't know. I think those are English pounds. Kent can't have a debate without being a condescending piece of crap, throwing out thinly veiled insults he feels are clever, but really, his whole thing is insult laden. Like, that's why I tried to stay away from it. Hugo did not, which is funny, and I liked it, and a lot of people liked it because like if I thought that we could make any headway, I don't think the insults would have been good, but because, there's nothing to gain from Kent Hovind. Make it a spectacle. I'm absolutely fine with that. Robert Diffenderfer, not a question, just think you guys are cool. You are wrong, Robert. What is cool about us? How are we cool? Do you have any tats, Hugo?
No. I'm thinking about getting one, though. But
are we going to get one for our D&D campaign because we're huge nerds? I think that'd be fun.
Cool.
I think that'd be cool. I admit I'm wrong because I don't like butts. You don't like butts? Are you asexual? That's the only people that don't get to like butts are asexual people. And aromantic. More asexual, though. Like, if you're aromantic but still sexual, you should like butts. Gish Gallop Master? Nah, Ray Comfort's way better at Gish Gallop than he is. Ace represent, by the way. I'm not one of you, but... thank you, Hugo, for being the voice of aggression to Jake's voice of patience. I don't think... I think it's just because this one hits home a little bit for you, a lot more than it does for me, so...
I think I would have been fine if it weren't for the kids literally being in the room with him.
Yeah.
That's what got me. The using them as props and them being gleeful parties to it really got to me. Yeah. I don't know.
I tend to agree. If you like this kind of stuff, I also do this on twitch.tv/actualjake. I will put a link in the doobly-doo for you because I do this constantly. If there's anything that Hugo's invited to, we'll put it on here. But sometimes we debate other stuff. It's free to follow, and if you don't think you like Twitch, you like Twitch. It's super fun. I promise you'll enjoy the content over there. I'm pansexual and I'm mostly indifferent to butts. You're a liar, Apollo. You're just a liar. I refuse to believe that people out there don't like butts. That's not the world I live in, okay? Hugo is killing him with facts, and Jake would point out his ignorance and stupidity while laughing at him. Yeah, I think there's a reason that the two of us team up. Pizza Pasta Cat with $2. Does this bring you back to 2012? This is old school. Yeah, this is it felt good for me. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Did you find enjoyment in this exercise? I know that you get frustrated with that shit, but also like
I found it more interesting. I don't know. I'd definitely do it again for what it's worth. I don't know what the feeling is, though.
Yeah. Sarah Lynn, with $5, you need instant replay for the claims Kent denies to have just made. That's another reason I like Twitch is because you can clip stuff immediately. It's just part of the service. You can make a clip, and it's saved in perpetuity, and we can go back and look at someone's lies almost immediately. It's fucking great. The common ancestor of humans and insects, which is that same insects and which is the same of insects and whales, is probably the common ancestor of the bilaterally symmetrical animals. So maybe some kind of worm. That's interesting. I hated Twitch before you dragged me there. Now I'm listening to you while watching kittens live. Oh man, Twitch is great. I like YouTube for some of this, but YouTube doesn't have as much for live things as like a Twitch does. And I think that from a user perspective, from someone that uploads, I think Twitch is easy. Like it's literally just one button. For YouTube, I have to go through a huge process. But that said, I know that a lot of you guys that prefer YouTube like live stuff, so we do it here too. So if you don't like it, that's fine. But again, you're missing a lot of content over on Twitch. I know you get notifications every once in a while. Just click on it once. You don't need to like download an app or anything, and it's free to follow somebody, and you never have to give anyone a dime. But it is a really cool thing, and not just for me. There's lots of people on there that you would like. Hassan Piker, friend of the show, he's over there debating if you're a dirty commie. You have Destiny, who's gone Centristany the last few weeks, so if you like that, go for that. Lots of people over there. It's a good place. Also, I did a 24-hour live stream over there that Hugo was on. Hugo got to yell at somebody about capitalism and Joe Biden, and so you missed quality Hugo time from time to time on Twitch as well. So it's not just about me. Hugo also has a Twitch that is not used super often, but is used occasionally, which is twitch.tv/Hugo Reloaded. So head on over there and give that a follow as well, and every once in a while you'll be graced with Hugo time. Also, Hugo, since we have 881 people just watching right now, do you think we're gonna do that long form project we had discussed?
Let me think about it for a little bit longer. I'm not sure if I have enough material. We'll see.
I feel like you do.
Maybe.
I need the material. I'll write it. Give me an overview, and then I can write it, then you can write it, and then we'll go back and forth, and then we'll think of different things that would be funny and an overall thing. I think we could do a very good, very good thing there. But God made fossils 6,000 years ago. That's true. That's 100% true. Can we get trans rights in chat? Trans rights chat. I think we're about done. If you have any more super chats, right this instant is the time. Otherwise, we're probably headed out in a second. And then Jamie Kibzinski with 10 maybe Australian dollars. With the pencil/clock argument, you have already had the concept of manufacturing demonstrated to you at some point. A remote tribe from the Amazon might infer that the pencil had grown on a tree. I didn't want to make that argument because basically he'd just be like, yeah, but they're stupid. You know what I mean? So, like, even a 5-year-old knows that pencils are pencils.
I tried to do my best to counter that by explaining,
yeah,
like, there's a clear distinction between design and a tree or whatever, because you're making the distinction right now.
Right. He
The
didn't
fact that
understand what you were saying.
No.
Right. The fact that he was like, well, here's a pencil, and he wasn't using here's a grain of sand is because even on his intuitive level, he understands that one looks more manufactured.
Yeah.
Megatron Soundwave 2020. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Probably better than Trump still. It should be Megatron Starscream, though.
Starscream is the, he's trying to primary the incumbent.
Yeah, okay.
Starscream Dinozords or whatever.
Dino, or...
Yeah. The ones
are
that
they
combine.
Dinobots?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, they're Dinobots.
Right. I finally finished. I had a tiny bowl of tuna and some Triscuits. This is what I've eaten today. Because I had to go to the store, but I didn't have time. So, God doesn't want to be found, so he invented a past for us to play with. Even if that were the case, I'm pretty sure you're memeing Ginger Sleep, because I think I've seen you before. Even if that were the case, which is kind of an argument I've heard before, but more along the lines of the devil put the fossils in the ground, right, to mislead you. That past would still exist, even if technically it's retroactive. Does that make sense? Because it has to exist in space-time, even if we didn't exist, even if nothing existed, because he's a god. If time starts at a point, right, and then moves forward, but the god can create time retroactively, then that time also exists as soon as he decides to create it. Does that make sense to anybody? It's like adding another, like, it's adding a train car behind the caboose. You can definitely do that, and the caboose is technically still the caboose, but it's not the last thing or the first thing. Does that make sense? Am I displaying this correctly, Hugo?
Oh, I was reading the chat. Sorry.
You
I
fucking
tuned out.
bitch! God! I thought I was like fucking 5-heading this shit, and you're just ignoring me. All right, fine. That's fine. I don't need your validation. But that's besides the point.
By the way, does anyone else notice that Kent Hovind, the only cartoon he knows and the most modern one he knows is SpongeBob, which came out 20 years ago? I know there's still new episodes of SpongeBob, but that's not why he brings up SpongeBob. It's because it's the only modern cartoon he knows.
Didn't the guy die?
Hillenberg or whatever? Yeah, the creator died.
That's sad. I'm stacking Triscuits, chat. I think I think it's over.
Yeah.
I think it's over. Once I start playing with my Triscuits, I think it's done. Jake, you are valid. Thank you. If you make time start behind the start of time, it's no longer the start of time. You're right. Right. Thank you. That's what I was saying. I probably could have used a graphic to explain what I was talking about because it was so fucking big-brained and 500 IQ, but I feel like you guys got it. My first channel with $5. When are you going to do something with Cody from Some More News? I vaguely remember you mentioning that. Always fun listening to you. He has been busy, so hopefully that happens at some point. I don't know. We didn't set a date. We had just talked. So again, you're missing stuff on Twitch, okay, guys? You're missing stuff on Twitch. People like Cody show up. Arian Foster's been there. I've talked to a bunch of different people over there. I've had debates with all sorts of people. We've had special guests. H Bomber guy showed up recently. Jack Saint's been on. Like Pig Puncher's been over there. Before he was banned, Vosh was on over there. Like, come on, what are you doing? You're missing content. Taking out the trash, not tonight. I gotta work on other stuff, and I gotta go to the store and shit. Tomorrow, brand new episode's coming out. And then, what's our other episode gonna be?
The Shapiro.
Cheapo! Burn Cheapo! Oh, clear out the place that you're in, and I'll go get a table, and hopefully we can do that from the set? New set?
Yeah.
Okay. Ken chastised you for being obsessed with butts, but he was the one pulling all his arguments out of his ass. Got him! We do more debates with creationists? Yeah, sure. Was it last night? Might have been last night or the night before. Did he punch 30 to 50 feral pigs? No. I debated a person that thought Trump was real good, which is basically a creationist. An actual god worth the title can move time in X and Y time, while the biblical god can only move forward in Z time like humans. Yeah, he's trash. That's what I was trying to get to with the isn't our version isn't evolution a more impressive process than just starting with the thing and ending with the same thing? Wouldn't it be much more impressive if a god was creative enough to make amoebas turn into people over long periods of time? I think that's very impressive. Just saying. Yeah. Sharpiro. Ben Sharpeo. Trump is not real good. I tend to agree with you. Trump is not real good. Okay. I think that's it. Boomers, you're obsessed with butts. Us intellectuals, butts are good actually. Absolutely. I think we can just straight up end it without even talking to these people. Don't need a shout out, just love you guys. Too bad, Paul, you get a shout out. Thank you very much. Love you too. Okay, so we'll have a new episode tomorrow. Tomorrow is a Chick Tract. And then after that, we will have some Shapiro stuff. Again, one last time, if you want more content like this, I'm spamming my Twitch in the chat. Hugo can spam his chat or his Twitch if he desires to do so. It's free to follow, and you get a lot of extra content, and it helps. It's fun. You'll have a lot of fun. What is that Twitch handle? Twitch.tv/actualjake.
Well, looks like I'm into dog porn.
Well, looks like I'm into dog porn. Why did it say that? Thanks for subscribing, Tyler Stocks. As an asexual, I can safely say that butts are godlike. Thank you! Okay. All right. Seriously, now we're leaving. Okay. Love you guys. Have a wonderful night. Anything else, Hugo?
Nah, that's it.
Fuck you guys!